immigration raids. But beyond that, it is just the fact that the Trump administration is destroying the Constitution. They're not abiding by the laws of this country. If they're saying that these immigrants are coming here and breaking laws and that gives them the right to deport them in these violent ways, let's look at the ways that they are breaking laws by not giving these people the due process that they're entitled to.
Jeremy, what's next for Franco and Joanny? Franco's since been returned to Venezuela. What does the path ahead look like for them?
It's a tough one in some ways because Franco obviously after, again, just to reemphasize, 4 months with absolutely no contact with the outside world, having no idea if anyone's advocating for him. These men went on hunger strikes. They wrote on blood in sheets to try and find out what was going on. I mean, it was truly a terrible experience for him, to the point that he told me recently that he has nightmares. He wakes up in the middle of the night with memories of being beaten by batons. He's happy to be out of that situation, but it's sort of ironic because he's now back where he started, back in Venezuela, a place that's not really a formidable place for him to be. He was happy to see his family. But, you know, he said, hey, look, I'm young, I'm 27 years old, and I'm never going to give up on my family, and I'm going to keep going. And you really have to admire his spirit and his fortitude. And briefly, Natasha, Carmen, and her family?
Well, Carmen has said that the nightmare is over. She finally, she was in detention for, I believe it was about 2 months. And finally, she gave up on her appeal and decided, like I said, to go back to Mexico, where her girls have joined her. And they're just going to try to make the most of it. But obviously, this is not easy with her husband in the United States and the drastic changes that have happened to their lives and the memories of everything that happened to her, which I know is going to leave deep scars.
That's Natasha Del Toro. She's a correspondent, film producer, and the host of Crackdown, the new documentary from Fault Lines. Also with us, Jeremy Young, a senior producer for Fault Lines. That's an Emmy and Peabody Award-winning documentary series on Al Jazeera English. You can see Crackdown on YouTube. Thanks to you both. Today's producer was Haley Blassingame. This program comes to you from WAMU, part of American University in Washington, distributed by NPR. I'm Jen White. Nyla Boodoo is with you tomorrow for the Friday. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk more soon. This is 1A.
Support for NPR comes from this station. And from Dickinson College, awarding the Rose Walters Prize for Global Environmental Activism to combat climate change and inspire future leaders. Learn more at dickinson.edu/RWP. From Chapter, offering Medicare advice to seniors nationwide and working to find the plans that best fit their needs. Advisors are available by dialing the number 27 Medicare. And from the sustaining members of this NPR station.
News happens fast. So for the next 3 hours, we've carved out a space to talk through it all. And yes, you're invited to weigh in. Jim Braude and Margery Egan are up next with Boston Public Radio, here on GBH News 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And Showcase Cinemas. Downton Abbey, the grand finale, opens Friday, September 12th at Showcase Cinemas. Ticket information at showcasecinemas.com or on the Showcase Cinemas app. Anytime you're looking for a snapshot of history, a window into the past, or the perfect partner in crime, GBH has you covered. Find all your favorite GBH shows streaming now on the PBS app.
Some stories are so wild, so perfectly timed, or so absurd that they sound made up. But reality is often stranger than fiction. We want to hear about your wild coincidences, out-of-control misadventures, and real-life plot twists that no screenwriter would touch. Submit your story to Stories from the Stage today at worldchannel.org/storytellers.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on the 11 o'clock hour BPR. Political commentator Chuck Todd zooms in for his weekly DC News Roundup. We'll talk about Trump's health, the Epstein survivors speaking out, plus a hearing happening right now on RFK Jr.'s actions undermining the nation's public health.
I'm Margery Egan. Then we'll open the lines to get your thoughts about the Epstein files. President Trump campaigned on more information. Now he says it's all a big Democratic hoax. Is this a rare opportunity for bipartisanship to restore balance and bring justice to these horribly wronged women? Weigh in next on the 11 o'clock hour of BPR and GBH and NEPM.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is now testifying before the Senate Banking Committee. Critics allege Kennedy has badly interfered with federal health agencies and compromised scientific work. He also helped dismiss the new director for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention last week after she'd only been on the job for a month. But former CDC Director Susan Menars published an opinion piece today in the Wall Street Journal. She says she was forced out because she refused to agree with Kennedy's demand that she compromise scientific principles. At today's hearing, Oregon Democratic Senator Ron Wyden asked Kennedy about her statement.
An opportunity to call her a liar if you say that you didn't do it, but I'd like to see you respond to this.
No, I did not say that to her. Other witnesses to every meeting that we have, and all of those witnesses will say, I never said that.
So she's lying today to the American people in the Wall Street Journal?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Earlier in the hearing, Senator Wyden called Kennedy a liar. President Trump is appealing a ruling by a federal judge. The judge determined Trump's recent deployment of National Guard troops to Los Angeles was illegal. From Cap Radio, Laura Fitzgerald reports.
California Governor Gavin Newsom had sued the Trump administration for deploying the National Guard to Los Angeles this summer. U.S. District Judge Charles R. Breyer heard the case over a 3-day bench trial in August and ruled on Tuesday that the deployment was illegal. He said the troops broke the law, prohibiting the military from engaging in domestic law enforcement by setting security perimeters and traffic blockades. The ruling was stayed until September 12th, allowing the Trump administration time to appeal. Now that it has, the case heads to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. For NPR News, I'm Laura Fitzgerald in Sacramento.
Food giant Campbell says new tariffs are accounting for a growing share of its costs. The company expects to offset these in part by raising prices. Campbell's is particularly affected by President Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum needed to make cans for soups. NPR's Alina Selyuk has more.
Campbell says tariffs are expected to account for about 4% of its cost of goods sold over the next fiscal year. That's hundreds of millions of dollars in costs. The company says it faces tariffs on various products. One is Rayo's pasta sauce, which relies on imports from Italy. And the big one is steel used for soup cans. President Trump has added a new 50% tariff on steel. And Campbell's executives say there's simply not a way to source the needed amount of steel in the United States, so they have to import this key raw material. The company expects to cover these new costs in part by negotiating with suppliers, improving productivity, finding other cost savings, but also, quote, surgical and responsible price increases. Alina Selyuk, NPR News.
On Wall Street, the Dow is up more than 130 points. You're listening to NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. That's the sound of children being dropped off at the new Sarah Roberts Elementary School in Roslindale this morning. It's an all too familiar scene. Some kids don't want to leave their parents, or some are behind, and parents get back in the car. They cry on the way home, even when we know our kids are in very good hands. Many of us have been there. Boston Public Schools welcomed back the majority of its 48,000 students this morning. It's one of the last districts to open its doors, as the majority across the state brought back students last week or right after Labor Day. No big winners in last night's Powerball drawing, which means this Saturday's jackpot is expected to hit $1.7 billion. Now, lottery officials say Saturday's jackpot would have an estimated cash payout of over $770 million before taxes. What would you do with that money? Jackpot is on track to be the third biggest in U.S. lottery history so far this year. The Powerball jackpot has been won 4 times. Maybe you can make it 5. In sports, today is a travel day for the Red Sox, who open a series with the Diamondbacks in Arizona tomorrow night. Thursday night football. That's right, the NFL season underway. Dallas at Philadelphia. Kickoff is at 8:20. And the Women's U.S. Open semifinals are tonight in Flushing Meadows, and the finals will be on Saturday, men's finals on Sunday. Forecast, sunny upper 70s today, cloudy mid-60s overnight, sun clouds low 80s tomorrow and Saturday. We are at 72 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. RWJF is a national philanthropy working toward a future where health is no longer a privilege but a right. Learn more at rwjf.org.
He's Jim Browdy. I'm Margery Egan. Welcome to BPR on GBH and NEPM. We are also streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow we got a big deal. Keith Lockhart, who is the conductor of the Boston Pops, is going to be our guest co-host. Going to be co-hosting with Jim and me tomorrow at the Boston Public Library.
He's not a guest. Some people are texting.
He's not a guest.
He is a co-host.
He's a guest co-host.
Yes, he is. Correct.
Thank you. He's a guest co-host.
Yes, he is.
He's going to be with us tomorrow at the library. So is CNN's Brian Stelter. We're going to have Live Music Friday with Jacyn Tremblay, Broadway star Mandy Gonzalez, and author Marianne Leone. Plus, you want to mention we get 2 special broadcasts from our NEPM affiliates. We're really excited to go up there September 15th and 16th. Former Governor Deval Patrick will join us, as will Congressman Jim McGovern and the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Andrea Campbell. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Margery. Here now via Zoom, political analyst Chuck Todd. Chuck, of course, is the former moderator of NBC's Meet the Press and host of a brand new show, Sunday Night with Chuck Todd, on the platform Newsphere. It's NOO Sphere. He's also host of the Chuck Toddcast. You can find at thechucktoddcast.com or youtube.com/@thechucktoddcast. And because we ordinarily don't make these kind of pleas, but in light of the fact that he just sent his younger kid off to college, if you want to give him a hand, you go to helpme@chucktodd.com and give whatever you can. How you holding up, Chuck?
I'm just lonely. I mean, that's I'm getting ready to get another dog.
Yeah, that's what you have to do.
I know. I have a neighbor who's got 6 kids. 5 are in college now. They have 1 more left, and I think they've replaced each kid with an animal. I think she's up to 2 dogs and 3 cats. I think.
Yeah.
Well, good luck on that front.
Yeah, it's a tough transition. You have my empathy on this one.
But did you find? You know what you find? You
What?
sometimes parent a little bit more when they're at college and when they were at home.
Yeah. Are you tracking him on your cell phone to know where he's going all the time?
Naturally. I don't want big government doing it, but I'll do it to my kids.
That's right. Well, Chuck Todd, we have been watching the beginning of these hearings on RFK Jr. It's looking a little hostile. He's doing a lot of finger pointing. RFK Jr. looks a little bit like his head might explode a little bit. Reminds me a little bit of some of the baseball players I used to see with big heads back in the day. But anyway,
is that a steroid reference?
Well, I don't know.
Okay, go ahead.
But he does have a very large head.
He does.
Which a lot of people
body,
that people who take steroids have large bodies.
I believe they call it roid rage.
That's right.
Yeah.
You may be witnessing right now.
Yeah, well, he's getting angry. So is anything going to happen with these as we're hearing about vaccines being unavailable for people under 65 without health conditions? Is anything going to happen here?
I don't know. I don't know what kind of spine, what's left of the Republican. I mean, I may, I was looking around at that Senate Republican conference, right? And there's 18 what I'd call normies, or people who I would have referred to in the pre-Trump era as sort of conventional conservatives, right? These are people that I think believe the Fed should be independent, believe that vaccines save lives. They're on the 80-20 side, or so I thought, but they're the only time that they go against Trump is over Putin, right? It's the only thing you see Senate Republicans at all push back on Trump is Putin. I thought this could be a wedge. It doesn't look like it's going to be one. I mean, part of it is, the really bizarre thing, and this gets it to, I think, our information ecosystem, is that Kennedy should be. I mean, here's somebody who's actively trying to kill people. I'm sorry. I know I'm saying it very harshly, but these decisions are going to kill people. And he's not the most unpopular person in government, right? Like, it's not even close. In fact, he might be the most popular cabinet secretary. I compared it today. I do think this bizarre anti-vax sort of movement has gained traction. It's all due to the COVID, but I think it has a lot of similarities to the prohibition movement. And if prohibition, the anti-alcohol movement was something, if you watch Gilded Age, right? The Cynthia Nixon character is hosting those temperance meetings and all this stuff. There was always a movement anti-alcohol. Pandemic happens in 1918, and within due to the pandemic, it's over. Alcohol's banned, and we go 10 years where the country lost its mind on alcohol.
Yeah.
I guess this is what we have to just expect. We're going to have to lose our mind. People are going to have to die. And then sometime in the next 5 years, the public realizes, oh, what were we thinking? We literally, it's like having a drunk driver in, you're riding in a car with somebody who's a drunk driver. That's what Kennedy is right now for America when it comes to public health.
Would you include Senator Dr. Bill Cassidy, the critical vote in the confirmation of?
Look,
would
I
you
think he's
consider him a
embarrassed.
normie?
I did.
Well, listen,
I think he's embarrassed.
Listen, here's a little bit from his questioning, and the only reason I think you didn't hear it is because it was happening as you were coming on Zoom. We were coming on the air. Here's Cassidy again from Louisiana. He was the key committee vote, ultimately voting for Kennedy in his confirmation. He's a doctor, as I said. Here he is a couple of minutes ago, questioning RFK Jr. about his actions on COVID vaccines.
Because of the conflicting recommendations made about COVID. This is from Eric Erickson, good conservative out of Atlanta, Georgia. Occasionally gives me help. My wife has stage 4 lung cancer. She is one of the people the COVID vaccine actually helps. Thanks to the current mess at HHS, CVS is unable to get her vaccine. I would say effectively we're denying people vaccine.
I mean, that sounds to me like he's doing what a responsible grown-up, particularly a physician, should do, right?
Yeah, except he confirmed them. I mean,
true.
All to potentially somehow hope that maybe Trump won't endorse a primary opponent, right? I mean, I just
no, you're right.
Look, I know Cassidy knows better. He knows. Maybe he believed that that there would be real White House restraints, and at first the White House tried to micromanage HHS and basically only allowed one of his fringy friends to be involved. And then Kennedy just has just rolled them, and Trump, has told his own staff to back off. I mean, here's the thing. I know inside that White House, there are a whole bunch of people who think Kennedy's nuts. And
I think
Trump has basically
we know that
said,
too, don't we?
touch
I think.
him.
Yeah, but we don't
Trump
matter.
has basically said, I'm going to let him run wild.
I have a Kennedy. Isn't that what he said the other day? Chuck, I was going to ask you, and now I can't.
It is like a collection. Like he just thinks if his last name were anything else, that dude never would have gotten the job and he would have been fired.
Totally correct. I was going to say to you, but can't anymore. As someone who's never optimistic about anything these days, I actually felt that there were two potential game changers here. One was going to be the vaccine issue, but apparently you don't agree. The other one was after this, I thought, spectacular press conference yesterday, which we're going to talk about with our listeners, with people from the far right, people from the left side of the spectrum joining hands, the Rokanas, the Masseys, even
Nancy
Marjorie
Mace,
Taylor Greene,
Lauren Boebert,
and then these incredibly powerful survivor women, and we'll play it later, the frighteningly clueless, crass, savage response, Democratic hoax line from Trump. This may have real staying power and impact. Am I naive about that too?
It could, but it feels like, he's died. I mean, look at what they did. They really strong-armed folks. He called a vote for that petition to get the files released a hostile act. and it made everybody fold except for the 4 Republicans you identified. I mean, did you, it is a reminder, by the way, and I've told this to my wife numerous times, frankly, since 2016, which is be careful. You never know who's going to be the hero of any given story in the Trump era. And I'm sure both of you never thought you'd be going, how about that Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Yeah, but on your podcast, you just talked recently about other people that are occasionally step out of their Republican stranglehold, like Lisa Murkowski. From
she's the only one. I'm sorry, she's the, and I was trying to be, podcast careful there, but as I said, she's the only senator, man or woman, who has testicular fortitude in that Senate Republican conference.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so you're not convinced of that either. But you want to stay with this? Or can we move on?
No, I'm fine.
So you did have another very fascinating, I hadn't even thought about this, the government shutdown, and talked about where the Democrats and Republicans are with this going forward toward the end of the month. So explain what the stakes are, what could happen, and what you think.
Well, look, you have government funding's running out September. We've all gotten so used to how this works. There's probably going to be some sort of continuing resolution that keeps it open another 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, right? It's always about trying to get through the holidays for these numbskulls, right? That really is why they will punt. And then at some point, the rubber meets the road. But I think it's a perfectly, I don't see the path to Democrats helping Republicans pass this budget. And I think when you look, I think this is an appropriate time for them to, not confronting, trying to shut down the government last March, I think would have been a strategic mistake. It was too soon. He just got in power. I do think the public would have been like, no, give him a couple months to govern before you confront him. Now it's pretty clear he isn't going to abide by the rules of Congress. He doesn't accept the constitutional rules, essentially, of governing. So I don't see any reason why Democrats shouldn't end up having a hard line. I just think the politics now, I think it's inevitable that we're going to have a government shutdown. And it'll be the first time we've ever had the Democrats cause a government shutdown. But I think the politics of this, there's more, I think it's riskier for current elected Democrats not to fight Trump in this moment than it is to fight him and lose. I think this is one of those cases where you can lose, and it may be problematic short term, but long term you may end up winning. I mean, look, Ted Cruz shut down the government in 2013 of October. It was bad in the moment for Republicans, cost them the Virginia governor's race in particular. By November of 2014, they won the Senate.
So what would be their reason for Democrats?
I think the easy one is Obamacare subsidies.
Okay.
The Obamacare tax credits run out at the end of the year, and you're going to have premiums skyrocket. And I think this is anytime you do this, you better have an exit strategy that's tangible, and that if you get it, take the win, right? I think the easy one is Obamacare subsidies, and they expire at the end of the year. I think there's a handful of Republicans nervous about the Medicaid cuts and how badly the bill is already polling, the big, beautiful bill.
Excuse me, it's not the big, beautiful bill. It's a working families tax plan.
Yeah.
Trump wants them to call it.
Right, working families for families that make over $1 million. Right, wealthy families, the wealthy family. They got the W right.
The wealthy working families tax plan.
Sometimes in a crossword, you get like wealthy working, you get it wrong. Oh, it's W-E, not W-O.
By the way, that's a real story. Trump wants Republicans who are campaigning not to call it the big, beautiful bill. Go ahead, Chuck. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I think that's the ask, and I think that's a hill. Put it any time they're fighting for health care, it's been good for them with voters, so it's probably a political hill worth dying on.
But it's one thing I wonder about that, though. A lot of people have their insurance through their workplace, and they're not on Obamacare. And so is that going to be enough? The Obamacare subsidies, which it obviously impact you if you're getting Obamacare, but not if you're not.
I hear you.
I mean, is there?
I think there's other things that you could easily do. I mean, he's already doesn't abide by the rules of the appropriations, right? With the rescissions packages and all this stuff. So, you could be, to me, I would be doing vaccines.
Yeah.
I would be doing healthcare subsidies, and I'd be doing a vote on the tariffs. I'd be making, the Congress should have to vote on these tariffs. I think this court, I think it's more likely than not that the courts are going to rule that he used unconstitutional authority to do these deals, and that he's going to need essentially congressional sign-off. I think Democrats ought to embrace the idea of putting that to a vote. Do you want to vote to raise consumer taxes 15% on every imported item into America?
They should be doing that now, by the way.
We have a trifecta.
No, they really should be doing that. To bait the Republicans saying Donald Trump doesn't have to depend on the Supreme Court of the United States.
Right, codify it.
Just vote for it. You have a majority Republican do it.
Yeah.
You know, do you watch Lizbeth Vasquez, the woman who does the fabulous...
Oh, my God.
You don't. Elizabeth Vasquez does I think it's TikTok every day, and she does a fabulous imitation of Carolyn Levitt, the press person that day. And since Carolyn Levitt, Marjorie's obsessed with, usually wears a cross.
Yeah.
She has a different cross every day. Someday it could be like gold shoes if Trump is selling
or it could
gold
be
sneakers.
soldiers if for the midst of, there'll be a soldier cross. It goes from her neck down to her waist.
I don't even know why
riot.
I thought. The reason I thought of that is we want to talk about Trump's health for a second. The other day, Carolyn Levitt, in this litany of contortions and lies that comes out of her mouth in defense of Trump, says when she was asked about his health and the thing on his right hand, he's been the most transparent president about his health ever. And at the second that I hear her say that on my computer, what comes up on the screen is an image of him having put makeup over the bruise so that no one can see it. That's transparency for you. What's your take? Do you have any insight other than just hypothesis on this health deal?
All I'll say is you reap what you sow, right? You know, why is there a lot of conspiracies about his health? Because the right wing created a lot of conspiracies about Biden's health, about Clinton's health. I mean, remember, Donald Trump worked with that guy, David Pecker.
Yes. National Enquirer.
Right. One of the great, sometimes people are named correctly. And David Pecker was the guy of the National Enquirer, and he used that. He used the National Enquirer to create, the story that Hillary Clinton was, on death's door. And so this has been the world they've been creating and swimming in. And guess what? Sometimes you create a narrative that you can't control anymore. And they're not being transparent. It's pretty clear his health, it may be as simple as he's got sort of typical health problems for somebody who's overweight and out of shape, right? When you're in your late 70s and you didn't work out and you're overweight and you eat badly, you're out of shape, you're taking all sorts of blood thinners, and those side effects can create the illusion of bruising, and there's all sorts of things that come with it. But here's the thing. They don't tell us the truth about his health. They've never told us the truth about his health. He had the Dr. Oz, remember, was it Dr. Phil or Dr. Oz? Which one of them gave him the first physical?
Bornstein. Harold Bornstein in New York City.
Oh, that
the
guy,
hippie
he's
doctor.
Now dead. He's now dead.
He died
his
first,
ex-wife showed up on our show at the library a couple of years ago. By the way, Chuck, I'm going to interrupt you. Your best line ever on the show, I quoted you yesterday on this thing. After Ronnie Jackson, who was then the doctor and now is a disgraced congressman from Texas, when Ronnie Jackson was saying how healthy he was, whatever, you said, here's what Ronnie Jackson says to Trump. You want to be 6'3", you're 6'3". You want to be 220, you're 220. But that's what it is, right? I mean,
100%. Like, I remember when they put out his numbers, his height and weight, you're like, my God, he shares the exact height and weight for the starting middle linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles. Do we think he looks like the starting middle linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just astonishing, right? The lies that they put out there on his behalf. And are they little lies? Sure, they're little lies. All right, I'm not going to sit here, he's vain. We know this. Trump is vain. Why does he put makeup on the bruises? He's vain. He doesn't want to admit he has health problems. I understand why they're not being transparent, because they've got a patient who refuses transparency. But it's clear it looks, I mean, we've all had aging friends and relatives, right?
Yes.
And the thick ankles, right? You go to a grocery store or a big department store, and who are the people riding the scooters? They are the people that have the huge ankles because they've got all sorts of fluid and circulation problems, which is why they have to use the scooters.
Yeah,
and
maybe we should get one of those things.
Look, I tell you, Guess what you don't see Donald Trump do? Travel the country right now. When was the last time he held a rally? He doesn't travel the country anymore. You rarely see him walk. A golf cart, he gets out for 2 steps, takes a swing, and gets back into his golf cart.
That's a great point. I hadn't thought of that.
The longest walk he takes is now the walk you rarely see him do anymore, and that is the walk from the south lawn of the White House to Marine One. I'm going to make a prediction to you. I believe by the end of his term, he'll be taking a golf cart from the south lawn to Marine One.
Wow.
He means in 7 years. Hey, before you go, we only have 1 minute left. You're not a local kid, and we know you were a Miami guy and all that sort of stuff in Green Bay and whatever. Did you luxuriate in the crushing of Bill Belichick as much as I did? On I'm almost embarrassed how joyous it made me. We have like 40
I bet it
seconds.
did. I wasn't. It was just sort of. It wasn't that I'm not even anti-Belichick. I kind of understand why he's coaching. I think he thinks if he doesn't coach, he'll die. Right? I think it's something to do, and he wants to be relevant. And I sort of think good for him.
It's got to feed the family. Go ahead.
Let me tell you how naive I was, though. So after that first touchdown, right, when everybody decided he was the greatest coach of all time because they scored on that opening touchdown. They did a shot of, I thought it was a shot of Randy Moss, and I wasn't paying attention. And I like, oh, that was just a shot of Jordan Hudson, the Paramore. I was like, oh, I'm sitting here thinking ESPN's cameras wanted to catch Randy Moss, and it was nope. It just happened to be Randy Moss was standing next to
Jordan.
the first
I did not know that.
The first lady of North
And
Carolina football.
of course, we know she's trying to patent Gold Digger.
Bill. I appreciate the sense of humor. You gotta give him.
Yep, that's good. She's got a certain irony going on there.
You gotta hand that to her. Look, I'm an ACC guy, so I do actually want I want UNC to succeed to help the conference, but. I get it. I would. I'm glad to see it's not that easy. Okay.
See you soon.
Chuck, thank you so much. We have been speaking with political analyst Chuck Todd, host of the Chuck Toddcast. You can find it at thechucktoddcast.com or at youtube.com at the Chuck Toddcast. He's also the host of Sunday Night with Chuck Todd on the Newsphere platform. Thanks again to Chuck. Coming up after this quick break, we're opening lines and text lines. It was a powerful showing yesterday by women who say they were trafficked by sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to open the phone and text lines. Your thoughts on the campaign to have Trump release all of the case files in what he's pivoted to calling a Democratic hoax. We'll be right back.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, Joy Behar. The comedian, talk show legend, and unapologetic truth-teller is bringing her wit to Boston by way of her play, My First Ex-Husband. The no-holds-barred comedy dives into the messy truths of love, sex, and relationships. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And North Shore Music Theater, presenting Rent, Jonathan Larson's rock musical about struggling artists navigating life during the AIDS crisis in the East Village at Bill Haney's North Shore Music Theater, September 16th through 28th, nsmt.org. And the Museum of Science, presenting the new exhibit, Perception Playground, which explores how your brain shapes your understanding of reality. Tickets at mos.org.
Welcome back to BPR and NEPM. Jim Browdy, Margery Egan, streaming at youtube.com/GBHs. Robert Kennedy Jr. literally looks like his whole body's going to explode. We're going to talk about that in great depth tomorrow after we have a chance to review the hearing. We're going to play a clip for you, and bear with us. It's a little longer than we typically play, but there's a reason. These are three of the women survivors of Epstein sharing their story of abuse yesterday at that press conference in a plea to get his case files released.
I was only 14 years old when I met Jeffrey, that I could make $300 to give an older guy a massage. It went from a dream job to the worst nightmare. They have documents with my name on them that were confiscated from Jeffrey Epstein's house and could help me put the pieces of my own life back together.
And I was 16 years old when I was flown to New Mexico to spend a weekend with Epstein and Maxwell. That same year, 1996, my sister, Maria Farmer, reported what happened to me there. 30 years later, we still do not know why that report wasn't properly investigated.
We are here demanding accountability, and I'm demanding justice. Congress must choose. Will you continue to protect predators, or will you finally protect survivors? And also, I would like to announce here today, us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names. Many of us were abused by them.
So we want to play 12 minutes later the response of court-determined sexual abuser Donald Trump's response to a question about this press conference.
This is a Democrat hoax. They're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president.
Yeah, information that every single leader in your administration, including you and the vice president, said should be released when you were candidates. Give us a buzz, 877-301-8970. Want to know your reactions to yesterday's brilliant moment, this bipartisan thing from the left, from the right, these survivors. Do you feel the sustained pressure on the Epstein issue, not just from people like the left, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, will lead to accountability? Or do you agree with Trump? We should move on. What's your position? Do you care about the disclosure of the Epstein files and some justice being done for what has potential to be as many as 1,000 survivors of Epstein and Maxwell? The number's 877-301-8970. I watched a lot of that press event yesterday. One of the most impressive multi-hour events I've ever seen. It was incredible.
Yeah, and when you listen to these women's stories about when they were girls, their parents were homeless. They had horrible home lives. They were thinking they were going to make some money from a very powerful person, or they thought they were going to get help in their careers from a very, very powerful person. And then they were groomed and they were sucked into the situation. I mean, but the problem is, I think we have had a lousy reaction in the United States of America to situations like this, whether it's the church sex abuse scandal, or the fact that multiple women had accused Donald Trump of being a sexual abuser, or that
and he was still elected president.
He was still elected president, or that this woman, Stacey Williams, one of the people that was involved with Epstein, talked about how she was groped by Trump when she was in the Oval, in his office, not the Oval Office. She was in his office with Jeffrey
Tower,
Epstein.
Yeah,
but it doesn't seem to matter, people. I hope it matters. I hope it matters to survivors like Nancy Mace, who was a very conservative Republican, and she's a survivor. I hope it matters, but I'm
I think
not
that's
optimistic.
That's why I think it's a difference, why I'm more optimistic than you are. Almost all those other situations, the pathetic, scared, sycophantic, on bended knee Republicans stuck with Trump. On the grab him by the you-know-what, for a minute and a half, they didn't stand with him, but that was about it. Here, there's some very prominent, as Chuck Todd said, when you have Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene standing their ground, and we're going to play for you a little later, right after he said it was a hoax. You said it wasn't a hoax? Marjorie Taylor Greene
and they also
challenges her hero, Donald Trump. That combined with the strength and relentlessness of these survivors actually gives me hope that something may happen.
And you read these stories and you discover that Epstein reportedly had video cameras all over his house. And he probably had video cameras all over that island that he was at, where he would record these girls, and they were girls at the time. Some of them talked about being 13 and 14 years old. I mean, really young girls. So I don't know. I hope it matters. But again, we'll see what people think. 877-301-8970. I'll tell you one thing. When one of those survivors announced yesterday that they were compiling a list themselves, that's going to make a lot of people nervous.
That woman Phillips. Is it Lisa Phillips?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think
I'm
it's
not
her
sure.
list.
She said
Kate,
she's going to, they're going to compile a list of the men that they were trafficked to, and we'll see, I hope, who's on it if they don't release it through the channels that are being sought through the government, if they release it themselves.
Kate in the car, hi.
Hi. So when Trump got in January and started blackmailing everybody left and right, especially those high-end law firms, you were so amazed that they capitulated so quickly and kept saying, oh, is it just money? I'm wondering if some of the names on the list that they all know about are people like that. And how did Trump get so many people to capitulate to blackmail? You only capitulate to blackmail when you know that person has something. The law firms that stood up and said, go pound sand, I think because they knew they did nothing wrong. But the people who capitulate so quickly, the men who capitulate so quickly, I believe, is because they're implicated in things that he has been holding over their head. That's why he doesn't want the stuff released. All his blackmail leverage goes away.
Boy.
Not to mention the fact that he's probably on the list, too.
I have no idea if you're right, but that's about as creative, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I mean it complimentary. It makes a lot of sense. They all say very powerful people in very, very high positions. Totally believable. And also possible, Marty, you and I were talking this morning, why was Trump for the release of the documents when he was a candidate and not now? Maybe it's because of the exact reason that the Kate just mentioned.
One of the theories about how Jeffrey Epstein made all this money, it's a big mystery, is that he was blackmailing people
Epstein.
that were... Yes,
yeah.
He was blackmailing the men that were involved with these women when they were 13, 14, and 15 years old. We don't know that, but that's one of the theories, because apparently he doesn't know anything about finance, but some finance guy was paid him like $1 million to handle his finances. Anyway, we're going to keep talking about this for a while longer. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We're also broadcasting right now on NEPM and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're talking about the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein speaking en masse yesterday. What do you think will happen? What do you think should happen? We'll be right back.
Tracing the path of human migration sometimes means hitching a ride on a cargo ship.
These vessels are kind of the workhorses or the modern camels of globalization.
We check in with National Geographic explorer Paul Salopek as he travels across the globe, mostly on foot. That conversation and more global news next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Direct Tire and Auto Service, offering a full range of services including brakes, shocks, diagnostics, and oil changes. Direct Tire and Auto Service, not just service, customer service. DirectTire.com. And the Cape Cod Foundation, committed to building resources to support community life on Cape Cod, including environmental conservation, arts and culture, and community development. Learn more at capecodfoundation.org.
Welcome back to BPR and NEPM. Margery Egan and Jim Browder is streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We're back at the library tomorrow, as we've told you all week. We're very excited. Our co-host, both of us will be here with a co-host. That would be the guy just celebrated his 30th anniversary as the conductor of the Boston Pops, the brilliant Boston Pops. That's Keith Lockhart. Great guests lined up to join Margery, me, and Keith tomorrow. We're just tuning in. We're talking about the latest on the Epstein situation, this incredible press conference yesterday. Congress people from the left and the right supporting the release of the documents and accountability, survivors courageously speaking up, and then Donald Trump, we played it for you, 12 minutes after the end of the press conference saying it was a Democratic hoax. And who, I repeat, who on Real America's Voice yesterday responded to Donald Trump's calling this a hoax? None other than Trump fan Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here she is.
Today he called it a hoax while these women were speaking out and they were saying, we're not a hoax. We're human beings. And it's not a hoax because Jeffrey Epstein is a convicted pedophile. That takes away the whole hoax things. It's not a hoax. It's not a lie. Every Republican should be able to sign on to this.
Good for her. As Chuck said, I didn't think I'd ever see a day where I'd say good for her or Lauren Boebert, but they're taking the right stance.
And meanwhile, look at what has already been thrown in the face of these survivors. That Ghislaine Maxwell, who not only arranged a lot of these liaisons, but was involved herself in the physical abuse of some of these women. She gets out, and she's been found guilty, right, by a jury. She gets out of this very serious prison to go to a much more lenient prison, and she gets to give this interview in which she lies through her teeth over and over again. I mean, these women were abused by Ghislaine Maxwell, and she's doing Easy Street in a federal prison.
You know what's upsetting to me? Really upsetting.
Wait a minute, it might not be a federal prison, it might be a state prison.
No, I think
it
is.
It's lenient.
Okay.
I'll have to double check
the
that.
thing that's really troubling, among other things, is it's one thing when Trump stands up and lies and people who support him say, well, listen, he's telling the truth. It's all BS. When people watch television, I know what you're going to say.
Who can really
I know
think
what
this
you're
is BS?
I know what you're going to say.
They didn't even know each other.
I know what you're going to say. Fox News, when every night on the news, there is Donald Trump, there is the head of the FBI, there is the vice president of the United States, there is virtually Dan Bongino, the number 2 guy at the FBI, saying before the election, there's nothing more important than releasing the Epstein documents, and Trump himself saying he'll release them. Could people be any dumber? This is not some left-wing announcer on TV or radio saying something about Trump. It's Trump, Bongino, Vance, Cattell themselves saying it, and now they've totally flipped on this issue. What are these supporters of Trump thinking?
Well, first of all, they're probably not talking about it at all, or not very much on Fox News. That'd be one thing. But the survivors, family members, some of them were Trump people, and they hoped that Trump was going to take care of them. Fred from Middleborough is a good idea. We were talking about how the Democrats should try to shut down the government because, rather than pass this big beautiful bill, so-called, we're not supposed to talk about the
not the big beautiful bill, just to continue keep funding government. Yeah.
Yes, to keep funding the government. That's right. Did not pass the bill. Sorry, the big beautiful bill is already passed.
It's law, right.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. But they were talking about say, well, we're not going to fund the government unless you change on vaccines or the Obamacare subsidies or tariffs. He's adding release the Epstein files. It could be instead of a trifecta, it could be a four-way thing. Yeah, we're stuck with the big beautiful bill.
Let's go to Karen in Providence. You're next on BPR. Hi.
Hi, how are you today?
Good.
Good. So this may seem a little far-fetched, but a thought I had yesterday after watching the entire press conference and Marjorie Taylor Greene stepping up and such is that if there is a list put together either by the survivors or compiled, released through congressional effort, there's a really good possibility that it could start to crash Western civilization, I guess, for best,
Yeah.
Between stock markets crashing, industrial magnates being involved over the decades with all of this stuff, politicians, obviously royalty, obviously presidents. If everything all came out at once, the implications really could be much huger than we're thinking of just, giving the victims their due and, putting pedophiles in prison. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it because we should, but that could be an outcome.
Well, we don't know enough to know, but obviously everybody who does know something says some of the most powerful people in the highest places were people who are involved. So, Karen, you may prove to be right. We shall see. Thanks for the call.
One of our texters is reminding us how Trump bragged about being able to walk around the backstage of the Miss Teen Beauty pageant that he was in charge of, so he could see these teen beauty pageant contestants.
He says he didn't go into their dressing room when they were partially undressed, but witnesses say he did, and I would say that most people would believe that he did.
Yeah.
Indeed. 877-301-8970 is the number. We're asking about the state of the Epstein situation in the wake of this incredible several-hour press event yesterday.
And by the way, another texter is saying that they hope these women have bodyguards, and I'm sure a lot of them are not in a position to afford bodyguards, but I did hear one survivor talk about having received numerous threats already, and that they are very much afraid of repercussions from standing up against the president.
Understood.
Karen from Virginia. Hi, Karen.
Hello, Karen.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
My concern is I've watched a number of documentaries about this, and my family and I have discussed this, and I predict, and I might be wrong, that this could be as bad as the Watergate files.
Why?
Because once it all comes to light, I think people, like the previous callers have said, these people in powerful positions should be exposed.
Well, I agree with everything you said after your first sentence. I would say Watergate is nickel and dime stuff next to the potential for names being released about men who were involved in trafficking, forcing sex on, and other things with girls, young girls. So I think it could be huge. But to be huge, we need disclosure, and so far it ain't happening. Karen, thanks for the call. You know, for those who are, we haven't gotten a call like this or even a text yet. Well, they released, the committee in Congress released thousands of pages the other day. It was roughly 1% of all the documentation, and according to pretty impartial experts, virtually none of that was stuff that hadn't already been released to the public. The hope was that by that release, they'd be able to convince people who are concerned about this that they had done their transparency job, but they've done nothing of the like. 877-301-8970. You know, the point you made a minute ago is really important about security.
Security.
These women, because you criticized Donald Trump. And by the way, a number of them went out of their way not to criticize Donald Trump. A number of them said, we're convinced Donald Trump is not in the... They don't know. Obviously, they don't know. But I think strategically, they decided the best way to get Republicans to agree to the release is to not make Trump
they asked,
the issue.
One of them got up and said, you are very powerful, please help us, and words to that effect, asking for his help. And they may be Trump voters, for all I know. Mary in Waltham, what do you think, Mary?
Hello, Mary.
Hi, Margery and Jim. I was reading on the internet that J.P. Morgan paid out $290 million to these women in compensation. Why would they pay that money out if these women didn't announce who these people were that they were charging, who were in on this abuse?
I don't know about that. Do you know about
this is a couple of years ago. They did pay $290 million. It was a class action lawsuit filed by some of the survivors of Epstein, and the lawsuit said that the bank ignored obvious warnings about signs that allowed them to benefit Epstein's sex trafficking. So what's your point?
I just don't understand. What are these women looking for? I don't know what they're looking for now. Are they looking to name the people who abused them?
That's among other things. And they want not only accountability in terms of transparency, but there would be some consequence for men who violated the law with children. Why do you have a problem with that, Mary?
Oh, I don't have a problem with it. I have a daughter and two sons.
Yeah.
So I most certainly don't have a problem with it.
Well, that's what they're looking for.
My daughter was abused. Well, I would just like them to get an attorney, name the people who abused them, and let's go after them if that's the point of the whole situation.
Well, that, I think, is the point and part of the point. And one of the issues is if you disclose a name, I think you mentioned this yesterday, there's potential you get sued. Thank you for your call, Mary. Really interesting thing happened. I can't remember who it was. I think Taylor Greene and Massey were the ones that said this. Do you know that you can't be sued for what you say on the House floor? Like when Nancy Mace accused these men who she said had sexually assaulted her, you can't be sued for that. There's some immunity, senatorial, congressional immunity. They both offered, if the list were put together by these women, to read the list of names on the floor of Congress because they couldn't get sued by those people for doing that. And while some of you may say that's irresponsible, without a court of law having looked into this, it pales in irresponsibility next to decades of these women having to live with this trauma because people in high places decided to protect other people in high places.
Yeah, and the other thing that you have to remember is a lot of these women had no idea there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds other survivors or victims. A lot of them thought they were by themselves. Yeah. That one of these women talked about, she thought she was the only woman that had been abused by this guy, and now they're meeting each other for the first time.
What's that sound like to you?
I don't know.
Catholic Church. Catholic Church here.
Yeah.
We heard those stories early on. I thought I was the only one. I thought I had done something wrong. They were groomed, the same sort of grooming. I mean, when that woman, I'm sorry I don't know her name. I don't mean this disrespectfully. We both saw on CNN who spoke the other night, who was taken there as a young teen. And she said, and she recruited other people, by the way, because she was groomed so brilliantly by the Epstein Maxwell access. And she went on to say her parents were homeless.
Yes, they were homeless.
Yeah, and so as the priests who committed the worst of crimes, the ability to identify people who are vulnerable is what those criminal priests engaged in and what Epstein and Maxwell were experts at.
And they talked about Ghislaine Maxwell being a very manipulative and persuasive person, that they somehow thought that she was going to be their protector. It turns out, obviously, she was not, and that they were swept up by her. I mean, you can imagine being 13 years old with homeless parents or a very abusive household where you yourself were being abused, and then have these very wealthy people who suddenly seem to be interested in your welfare. You can imagine how you can easily get sucked into that situation. That was the same thing too with the priests, the mothers who let their kids go off with these guys. They were priests, and they thought, oh, the priest wants to take you off for a camping trip over the weekend. What could go wrong? And of course, terrible things did happen.
Michelle in a car. Hi.
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 I just have a very short comment.
Okay.
I just think that they should keep Alligator Alcatraz open for the people that are in the Jeffrey Epstein files and send them all there.
Oh, let me tell you. Well, allegedly they treated people, even though it's being closed, as you know, they treated people so well, according to the government. That'd be a wonderful place for them. That is brilliant, Michelle. Thanks for sharing that. We appreciate it.
To all the people that are texting about Bill Clinton, what is the point that because Bill Clinton did terrible things that these people should get away with it?
Well, first of all, it's whataboutism, which Fox News raised to an art form. When somebody you support has done something horrible, talk about somebody else.
Right.
And number two, one thing I have to say here, this show, which liked the policies of Bill Clinton a lot more than we like the policies of Donald Trump, talked about the crimes of Bill Clinton and the credibility of his accusers endlessly on this show for years.
Right.
So go somewhere else and accuse somebody else of covering up for Bill Clinton. It never happened here.
But it's kind of a sad refuge to
because
keep
you can't defend
Bill Clinton.
Well, if you can't defend Trump or Epstein, Trump for failure to disclose, Epstein and Maxwell for their crimes, what do? You change the subject. Like the other day, did you hear when Marco Rubio said that Trump could have stopped that ship with allegedly the drug cartel people? Instead, it chose to bomb it. Now, other than the fact that he is unhinged, as you've called him, for 10 years, why do you think he chose to bomb them rather than stop them?
Well, I think, for one thing, it was getting off the Epstein files.
Exactly. If he stopped them, who would be talking about it?
How do we know they were traffickers?
Of course.
I mean, Donald Trump, I think we know by now, lies about everything.
Everything.
So, were they drug traffickers? I don't know.
Yeah.
Does anybody know?
My favorite lie of the week was when this guy who is consumed by social media, both as a participant and a reader, when he said with a straight face, I didn't even know about the talk on social media about my health and that I might have died. I didn't even know that. I had very successful press conferences the other day. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
A texter is also reminding us of the infamous Howard Stern interview when Trump said if Ivanka
was not his daughter,
not her daughter, he might be after her.
He might date her. He said, it's just. I mean,
Steve and
but he's your guy.
Hi, Steve.
Steve Woburn. Hey.
Hi, Jim. I just got a quick comment. I don't think Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden could have released the tapes. Donald Trump could have released the tapes. I think it's so embarrassing to the higher ups that neither party wants to do it because it's bad for the government. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I think nobody was blackmailing. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't blackmailing anybody. They were paying him for the services. Because when you blackmail somebody, the word gets out pretty quick that, okay, he's blackmailing somebody, so don't go around Jeffrey Epstein because you're going to get in trouble. So I think these billionaires were paying him millions of dollars for these services. That's what I think. And the girls that got abused, they could have come out before the J.P. Morgan settlement, but now that they got that money, there's probably a non-disclosure agreement that they can't say the names of the people. So
Well,
that's probably
I don't think that is the case at all, by the way. And one of the reasons that Biden, I don't know this for a fact, but to get back to, I assume the reason Biden didn't release them is because they're high-level Democrats who are in these files who are compromised as well. There's no reason anybody should think this is a Republicans-only kind of
No, we do know, speaking of Bill Clinton, that he was on the airplane.
The flight, right.
Yep.
We don't know anything more at the moment. Steve, thanks for your thesis, too. We appreciate it. Everybody's got a thesis. The only thing all of us should agree upon, I think, except for Donald Trump, obviously, is these women deserve some justice. And first level of justice and accountability is disclosure, and second level is consequences. And by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, Comer, who's the head of the Oversight Committee that is going to have hearings, originally didn't even invite the former Secretary of Labor for Trump, who was the U.S. attorney who cut the sweetheart deal for Epstein, which was virtually no penalty.
Yeah,
he was allowed 12 hours out a day to go to his home, minimum security, etc.
And he only pled guilty to prostitution.
Right, and Acosta is going to be, I believe he's going to be called before that Oversight Committee.
That the survivors are very upset about is that, who's the guy that went down and interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell?
Todd Blanche.
Yeah, Todd Blanche, formerly one of the president's personal lawyers. That they said, why did he go talk to her and not talk to us? I hope that was another.
It's a good question. And if you read, I haven't read the whole transcript. I've read some of the transcript. I've listened to experts about it. It was one of the weakest, most pathetic interviews. And a woman who's been convicted of perjury, that's lying for a living, who wants a pardon. What a surprise. She says Donald Trump always acted appropriately. What is she going to say? I'd like a pardon. Oh, by the way, he was a sexual predator on Epstein Island. Oops. I mean, by the way, and we have no idea. Let's be clear.
She said she
you always
didn't do
have to say,
anything
we don't know
wrong.
what he did or didn't do. We just know he was very close friends
for
a
10
long
years,
time, but
best
that's not a
friends.
crime.
Nope,
that's
it's
not a
not.
crime.
It's not a crime.
But we would know a lot more if Donald, let's say it for the 400th time. Despite all this BS from Trump and Vance and Cattell and Bongino and Bondi, especially the Attorney General, Donald Trump could get 100% of those documents released
right
by
now.
5 o'clock today. They've already been redacted in terms of the survivors' names if he wasn't scared to death that he, his kids, his friends, his donors, somebody is not peppered through these papers.
It's obvious that he was all in favor of releasing them before, so it's obvious that something was found between then and now. That's my presumption.
Well, his Attorney General and his FBI actually read through all this stuff, and I assume they found, we don't know if it implicates him, but in light of the fact that I think it's fair to say
he's done a 180.
He cares about nobody except himself and maybe his kids. It's got to be somebody very close to him. If it's not him, it's got to be somebody very close to him.
I don't know, but there's something he doesn't want out, whatever it is. We just don't know what it is. And the nerve of him to call this a hoax. I mean, how hard was it for those women who have led very, very troubled lives to get up there in public and talk about
How hard
this?
was it for the 24 women approximately
Exactly.
who accused him of sexual harassment or abuse?
Yeah.
That's a hoax too.
And he said then, they're all doing it for the money. They're all writing books. Well, I know E. Jean Carroll wrote a book because she was a writer to begin with. Did I miss the other 23 books?
No, I don't think you did. This matters a lot, by the way, and even if it has no political consequence for people like Donald Trump who are covering up this thing, if you believe in accountability and justice for women, you heard those stories either on television interviews last night at the press thing. You have to be beyond heartless to not say, what can I do as a resident citizen of this country to help ensure that these women finally have some justice and
look at a 14-year-old girl that you know.
That's a great way to look
about
at it. That's a great way to look at it. It's a great way to look at it. So we'll continue to talk about this, and we hope you continue to think about it. Call your elected official and tell them you care about it and you want disclosure, full accountability too.
Okay, thanks for your calls and texts. We are moving on. The show continues, though, here in Boston. Thanks to the people who tuned in at any PM. You can tune in the fabulous 413 starting at 3 this afternoon. We're going to be up there ourselves in the any PM studios. It's the 15th and 16th, I think, isn't it?
It is, yep.
Okay, coming up
September,
after
right.
the new news on 89.7 GBH, House Advocate Bruce Marks joins us, housing advocate, I should say. Bruce Marks joins us, plus 2 homeowners who are impacted by this BlueHub Capital scandal. We're going to talk to you about what it's all about, a judge's decision, what this means to these homeowners who were about to be foreclosed on. I'm Margery Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's not over yet. More smart conversation about community issues up ahead with Jim Browder and Margery Egan on Boston Public Radio, right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Salem's only collection of authentic objects from the 1692 Salem witch trials. Now on view. For tickets, you can visit PEM.org. An unlikely group of spies go behind enemy lines to turn the tide in America's fight for independence. Catch a new episode of Turn, Washington Spies, tonight at 9 on GBH 44.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browder, head on Hour 2 of BPR. Housing advocate Bruce Marks has been fighting against what he argues is predatory lending practices from an organization called BlueHub. Agrees. He joins with two homeowners who have their own experiences with BlueHub.
I'm Margery Egan, then a mother and son cooking duo to discuss their new cookbook, Heartland Masala, all about Indian cooking, family, and the power of food. All that plus or two more things segment next, BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is appearing before a Senate Finance Committee where disagreements over his public health policies cross party lines. He's defending layoffs and budget cuts at the agency. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, whose support was pivotal in Kennedy's confirmation, flagged this concern.
An email from a physician friend of mine. Hey, Bill, I'm not even sure what I'm asking you, but we're all confused and concerned about who can get the COVID vaccine. We are having our attorney try and render an opinion, but there's no firm guidance and concern about liability if vaccines are given to a patient who requests it, but not on the current CDC list. Pharmacists are requiring a prescription now even for patients over 65, creating a huge headache. I submit these for the record.
Without objection.
I would say effectively we're denying people vaccine.
Kennedy has raised concerns about the effectiveness of vaccines, a position which critics focused on during his Senate confirmation hearing. The District of Columbia is suing to stop the president's deployment of the National Guard in D.C. And Maryland's governor and the mayor of Baltimore say they also oppose the idea of President Trump deploying National Guard troops to the city to combat crime. Scott Massioni with member station WYPR says some Baltimore residents took to the streets yesterday.
The National Guard's not welcome here!
Baltimore residents pulled together an overnight protest after President Trump once again threatened to send the National Guard into the city, claiming it would lower crime. Karen McDonald was one of the protesters in the crowd.
We all see the stats in the news about how crime has been decreasing over the past 30 years here in Baltimore. I think there are real strategies that are working. I don't think the National Guard is going to solve anything that the city isn't already solving for itself.
Trump's comments come as the city records historic decreases in violent crimes, including homicides. Last month, the city saw 7 homicides, the lowest for that month in half a century. For NPR News, I'm Scott Massioni in Baltimore.
Hamas says it's willing to release all remaining Israeli hostages if Israel ends the war in Gaza. Here's NPR's Daniel Estrin.
After President Trump called on Hamas to release all hostages, Hamas reiterated its long-standing offer to do so. Israeli leaders called Hamas's statement spin and demanded it disarm. Israel is vowing to launch a major offensive in Gaza City. On Wednesday, Israelis protested near Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's home. They called to end the war. Protester Yael Agmon.
The lives of the hostages are way and far more important than continuing to destroy Gaza and kill innocent civilians and risk the lives of the Israeli soldiers.
After protesters lit a fire and a nearby car was burned, Netanyahu compared the protesters to fascist gangs. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
It's NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Officials at Harvard University requiring students to participate in an anti-hazing training program at the school, and the school is now required to collect reports on student groups that are involved in hazing incidents. The Crimson reports that the new rules are intended to put Harvard in compliance with the Stop Campus Hazing Act, an anti-hazing law that was passed by Congress last year. The Hyannis-based nonprofit Housing Assistance is offering a free course to help renters learn the basics of home buying. Housing Assistance CEO Alyssa Magnotta says one of the goals of the class is to help people see themselves putting down roots on Cape Cod.
We hear that often, that it seems unattainable, not possible, and yet we have people that are buying homes that would never have imagined it in their entire lives.
The course, called First Steps to Home Ownership, is a 1-hour, one-time virtual class offered periodically through the end of this year. You can get more information at capeandislands.org. And don't look now, but today, September 4th, is National Wildlife Day. The September 4th date was chosen to honor the birthday of the late wildlife expert Steve Irwin. It's a good day to learn more about endangered species and preservation and conservation efforts around the world, or you can just read a book by Cy Montgomery. Also a great day to pay homage to the very first animal in space, which was, of course, the cow that jumped over the moon. He did it. Travel day for the Sox. Thursday night football, Dallas at Philadelphia. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include BetterHelp, committed to helping clients with issues ranging from relationship challenges and goal setting to grief and depression. Learn more at betterhelp.com/public. This is NPR.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Margery Egan. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow at the Boston Public Library, the conductor of the Boston Pops, Keith Lockhart, is going to co-host with me and Jim. Again, it's going to be at the Boston Public Library. We're also going to be joined by CNN's Brian Stelter, their media critic guy. Live Music Friday with Jacyn Tremblay, Broadway star Mandy Gonzalez, and author and actor Marianne Leone. Hello again, Jim.
Hey there, Margery. So in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis, a Roxbury-based nonprofit stepped in to help homeowners at risk of foreclosure keep their homes. BlueHub Capital, then known as Boston Community Capital, offered a program where homeowners take on a type of loan that gives BlueHub a stake in the home's value when the owner either sells or refinances, a shared appreciation mortgage it's called. In 2020, a group of Massachusetts homeowners sued BlueHub, alleging, quote, predatory lending practices. Well, last year, as the lawsuit made its way through the courts, Governor Haley signed a bill exempting BlueHub from the state's consumer protection laws. BlueHub isn't mentioned in the legislation, but it's the only company that offers this type of program. And by the way, according to the Attorney General, when she was with us, the only company in the state that has been granted an exemption from consumer protection laws. Then just a few days ago, after a 5-year legal battle, a Massachusetts Superior Court judge ruled that BlueHub Capital violated predatory lending statutes and other lending laws. It's not only a huge legal issue, it has the potential to be a huge political issue, as BlueHub CEO Elise Cherry is a prominent political donor in the state, including to the governor. We should note Elise Cherry has agreed to join us. She'll be with us on Monday. But joining us now in Studio 3 is Bruce Marks. Bruce is a housing activist, CEO of the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, called NACA. It's a nonprofit homeownership organization. Bruce, it's good to see you again.
Good
Thanks
to
for
see
being
you,
here.
Jim and Margery.
And two
Hello,
homeowners.
thank you for coming in.
Larry Mayor, am I pronouncing your name right?
Very good.
I'm shocked. Larry, it's great to have you from Munson. We've been there. He's a plaintiff
Yeah,
in the
the
lawsuit.
tornado.
Although he's since been able to refinance and leave his BlueHub mortgage. He'll explain that to you. Here also is Malika Cricklow of Hyde Park, who still has a BlueHub shared appreciation mortgage. Larry and Malika, we really appreciate your coming here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
We want to get into each of your situations in just a second, but I think a lot of people, including myself, are kind of confused, Bruce, about a shared appreciation. What does that mean?
Well, let me say that that means that when they sell the house, they're going to, pay back BlueHub hundreds of thousands of dollars. But if I could take a step back and say, NACA got involved in this because during the mortgage crisis, we were working with hundreds of thousands of homeowners to modify their mortgages because the mortgage crisis was really a home ownership deception scheme. And I say that because people were qualified for an affordable payment. But then that affordable payment doubled and tripled. So in the end, the only way to get out would be to refinance. So in 2009 and 10, we were able to reduce people's interest rates to as low as 2% to make it affordable. But that didn't even work because we needed to get the lenders, to reduce the outstanding mortgage amount. And we were able to do that with Ocwen and other lenders. But then we identified BlueHub. At that time,
We being in NACA in this instance, we're talking
we
about your
identified,
organization.
BlueHub, and what BlueHub was doing is saying foreclose on the homeowners and then sell it back to us, and then they would make a profit on that. And we said that's wrong because what you should do is get the lenders to reduce the outstanding mortgage amount to the current value, and then that would make it affordable, and no one would be foreclosed on. But BlueHub and their CEO, Lee Sherry, said, no, we can make money on this. So what did they do? They got the lenders to foreclose on homeowners.
When you say they got the lenders to foreclose on homeowners, in fairness, the lenders were going to foreclose on homeowners. They didn't need BlueHub to call them on the phone and say, please foreclose. They were about to do it.
But we were successful, Jim, in getting the lenders to reduce the outstanding principal on a number of them.
No, I understand what you're doing. You're doing. By the way, you know how we feel about the incredible work you've done to allow people to get into homes at an affordable, sustainable rate. I just want to. The situation. Correct me if I'm wrong. A homeowner is about to be foreclosed upon. BlueHub goes in, and correct me anytime I get it factually wrong. We'll get to your opinion about this in a minute. They buy the house for the bank. They sell it back to the homeowner who's about to be foreclosed upon. And that's the moment at which this so-called shared appreciation mortgage comes into play. Now, as Margery and I told you when we first talked to you about this months ago, neither of us had ever heard of this. So let's go back to the first question so people are clear, whether you like it or not, and I know how you feel. How does a shared appreciation mortgage work?
So I just want to add one thing to that.
Sure.
And that is they increased the price by 25%, so they made money on that, and they charged twice the interest rate of the market, right? And then
they is who?
BlueHub.
Right.
Okay.
BlueHub's making money at that point. And then they said, let's make more money by shared appreciation. So the amount that they reduce the mortgage amount, that percentage, often 50%, when that homeowner is going to sell, refinance, or pay off the mortgage, they're going to have to pay 50% of the increased value of the property to BlueHub. Now, BlueHub did not take...
Which is where the term shared appreciation comes from.
But now, remember that BlueHub did not take any of this loss. It was the lenders who took the loss because they were only able to get the amount of the value of the property at that point. So the lenders took the loss. So all this money is going to Elise Sherry and to...
She's the CEO. Okay, one more thing, and then we want to get Larry and Malika to tell their personal stories. So the verdict came down last week. Give us a short summary what the judge in this case determined?
Well, this took over a year, Jim and Margery, and so the judge said in a summary judgment, and you as an attorney,
sort of a lawyer,
yes, says is based on facts. So there's no dispute of the facts. One, it was not retroactive, so the legislation was not retroactive. Number two is
had it been retroactive, to be clear, had it been retroactive, as BlueHub was arguing it would have nullified the suit. It couldn't have been brought.
Right.
And the court determined it was in fact not retroactive.
Right.
Go ahead.
And then they took the two mortgages and they made it into one, and then by definition, that means they are in violation of the consumer protection laws, and now the judge has found them guilty of being a predatory lender.
Summary judgment. Okay.
So,
yes.
so what was your understanding? What was your situation, Malika? Tell us.
Well,
a little closer to the mic if you can, Malika. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I was experiencing some difficulty with my mortgage. I had two mortgages, one with GMAC and one with Midland Mortgage. And I went to BlueHub I was seeking some help. And
had you heard about them from friends or people in the neighborhood, or what was the deal?
Well, I originally heard about them through a focus group, which was conducted at Faneuil Hall, which they got a group of homeowners that were facing foreclosure or had been experiencing some problems with their mortgages.
Okay.
And so they gave examples of a satellite program that hadn't really taken off yet, but there was a possibility that it might happen. So, we sat around the focus group. We were paid $125 in exquisite lunch, and they received our opinions. And so that was the end of it. And I did some internal investigation to try to figure out who this company was that, had this focus group. So that took a while, but long story short, I contacted BlueHub Capital to see if they could be of some type of assistance because I didn't want to be out in the street.
Yeah, you were facing foreclosure.
Exactly. And I was trying to work it out with the mortgage companies that I was involved with, and all of them said, no, pay us, $32,000 or whatever amount that I owed. And I was unable to come up with that lump sum of money. And so with BlueHub Capital, we worked through the program. I was desperate, really. I had my back up against the wall. They claimed that they were going to help me, and we went through the figures, and then right before the settlement, they sprung this SAM on me, and I was like, "Well, no, I don't think I'm in favor of that." I said,
"This is shared appreciation."
The shared appreciation mortgage. Yeah, that's what we call SAM, and so it was this, rebuttal back and forth, and they were like, in final analysis, like, well, if you don't accept it, it's no go.
And one thing I've read is that many people who were in your situation didn't have a lawyer with them to discuss this at the closing, and they were told they weren't supposed to talk about the terms of the deal. Was that your situation too?
I didn't have an attorney.
Okay.
And during the closing, I was not to disclose. Well, coming up to the closing, it was several months had transpired, and they said, don't say a word to anybody in the community because, this is going to be this satellite program, blah, 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 blah. And then they told me, well, if you say something, then we'll probably have to nullify everything because it's just going to, ruin everything because, nothing is set in place.
We got it, Malika. Larry, tell us what your situation, what your experience with BlueHub was, please.
Yes. Back in 2017, I was looking for a mortgage, and I happened to hear about BlueHub, and I really don't remember exactly where I heard from, but I contacted them and I explained my situation and everything, and they said, yeah, we can help you. We're a nonprofit. Please come down and talk to us. So at that time, my wife and I, we went down there, and we had a meeting with them. They seem very nice, like very believable. Again, coming up all the time, we're a nonprofit, we're here to help you. Well, I said, okay, but the thing I didn't like was the fact that it was my interest rate was double almost what everybody else would be. But I said, well, if I'm not happy down the road, I can always change. Because one of the things they say, if you're not happy, you can always get another mortgage, refinance.
Understood.
I said, well, hey, great. So after I was with them, and when I got the mortgage, I only had that mortgage for about 11 months, and my wife and I sat down and said, "Gee, we have good credit. We can get a much lower rate." And she said, "Yeah, if you want to, let's refinance." I said, "Okay." So I found a bank, and they signed me up right away. They said, "Yeah, you're good to go. Just we're going to call Boston." At that time, it was Boston Community Capital. And he said, we're going to call them, get all the financing, and we'll be all set. I said, oh, that's great. So I get a call back from this bank, and they said, oh, did you sign a second mortgage? I said, no, I don't have a second mortgage. And they said, well, they are claiming that you signed a second mortgage. So I immediately called them back, called Boston Community Capital and said, what's going on here? I said, they're claiming that I can't do anything until I pay off the second mortgage. I said, I never had a second mortgage, not to my knowledge. Excuse me. And they said, oh, yeah, you signed a SAM, and that you have to pay that off before we're allowed to go on with this. So I sat down with my wife, and I said, I'm beginning to figure out just exactly what this bank is doing.
What is it doing?
They're trapping people. They're trapping people into it. Most people could never pay the second mortgage off, so
How much was it?
Well, for me, they wanted $25,000.
Okay.
After I paid them in all $67,000 for 11 months. I said, this is ridiculous. I knew this was a trap. And I fell into it. So
are these typical stories, or Bruce, or no?
Absolutely. So they say that they've done about 1,000 mortgages, and they're virtually everyone is the same with a shared appreciation, which is unprecedented, Jim, in what they're doing, because people cannot refinance. Remember, people are paying twice the interest rate. And in terms of Larry has paid his mortgage on time, twice the market rate. Malika has paid it on time for 16 years.
Wow.
And she cannot even refinance on that. So when they say you can refinance, you can't, because remember, the reason to refinance is to have a lower payment.
Yes.
That's why you want to do it. So, but if you have to pay $100,000 or $200,000 to add to what you're paying off, your payment's going to be higher. And so you can never get out of this mortgage.
What did the judge find in terms of whether or not the full information was disclosed about these shared appreciation terms?
He's saying it's not, because what they did is they tried to hide that from the borrower and from the regulations. So they divided the mortgage into two parts. They split the mortgage. And by doing that, they tried to say that we're not subject to the consumer protection laws. But the judge ruled you cannot split it. He said it's the same staff, the same offices, the same number, and also if one mortgage goes into default, the other one goes into default as well. So the judge says it's one mortgage, therefore you're subject to the consumer protection violations. But their other argument is that they're a nonprofit, and therefore they're not subject to the consumer protections. NACA is a nonprofit. Of course we're subjected to, all the consumer protections, 93A, and all the laws.
Well, going
out there.
forward, they're not, because of what the legislature did. The issue here was retroactivity. I have a couple of questions about this retroactivity thing. My recollection, first of all, we had the Attorney General in, and she's argued on the air that this legislation she had looked at that the governor signed was not retroactive. We then asked the governor if she thought it was retroactive. She signed it. She said no. So that's two people in pretty important positions said it wasn't. BlueHub argues in this litigation it was retroactive. And then when I'm reading, I believe, testimony that Elise Cherry, head of BlueHub, gave before the legislature when the legislation was pending, She said it wouldn't be. Am I right about that? That
Yes.
she said it wouldn't be retroactive? So if she said in testimony before the legislature it wouldn't be retroactive, how does she argue to the court that it is retroactive?
Well, it didn't fly. So let me read you the wording from on page 36
Of
from
the decision,
the judge. Quote, more importantly, the legislature declined to pass a prior version of the statute that included a retroactivity provision, and that BlueHub CEO Elise Sherry expressly testified before the legislature that the statute would not apply retroactively to the pending litigation.
But she argued it was retroactive in the litigation.
And yet 2 days later, and remember, she's an attorney. She worked for Hale and Dorr. So 2 days later, after her friend Maura Healey, the governor, signed that into law, she said it was retroactive. And the judge on page 36 of his decision said it's not. So she lied.
I just have a question about why a nonprofit or anybody that's in this kind of business should be subjected to the consumer protection laws. Why would anybody be considered exempt?
Well, that's what we asked the Attorney General, and they're the only ones that are, as far as
that's
we know.
very odd, isn't it?
Yeah, that's odd. And that's why we're asking the Attorney General to investigate BlueHub and to look at their nonprofit status, to saying, why should you? Because the judge has ruled. The judge has ruled that they are a predatory lender. That's his decision. And it took him a year. And when you read that 58-page decision, he lays out, he looked at every case, every one of the plaintiffs, and he said, yes, they're engaged in predatory lending legislation. End of story.
Can I ask Larry and Malika briefly, if I can, what was your reaction, Malika, starting with you, when you heard about the court's decision in this case? Briefly.
Well, I was electrified. I said, great. I said, at least somebody. We've been barking our horn all around City Hall, the Division of Banks, this one, that one, the other one. They all had closed ears. And now, finally, the judge made his decision.
How about you, Larry?
Well, I always felt from the beginning we were well in the right on this thing. It's just we needed to get somebody to say it. We all felt it.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't have been in it otherwise. We know that what we call crooks in the hood. We go after, this is a thing that should never have happened. And yet, when I heard it, I was ecstatic also.
Are you both still in your homes?
Yes.
Yes, you are. That's okay. That's because that's one of the arguments that Elise Sherry has made. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that basically, okay, well, you're going to lose your home, so this shared appreciation deal is better than losing your home. You're smiling at me.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, of course she's going to say that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, she's glad I'm still in my home also, because she stands to make just as much profit as I do, because she gets 50%. So 50% split down the middle, she's probably going to get $150,000 if I sell my home, and I'm going to get $150,000. But I've been paying the mortgage 16 years. What has she been doing?
Well, but
and you
gaining a profit.
And you did not realize it was going to be a 50% deal.
Well, at the time they did say the 50%, but they kept changing the percentage. And then, but the foreclosure date was setting in. Yeah. So my back was up against the wall. So I was at the point where if they said 99%, I was like, okay, wait a minute. Okay, hold up. What's going to really happen? They said, well, you could just refinance in a couple of years. Oh, okay. Just refinance. It's going to be so easy.
Okay.
But I want to follow up on that, though, because it's interesting what Malika said in response to Margery's question is even as you have argued for years, Bruce, as the organization that's been behind this litigation with these individual homeowners, and the judge affirmed most of your claims against BlueHub, isn't even a bad deal that allows you, by your definition and the courts, to stay in your house better than being foreclosed and losing your house? And I'm not asking you if a loan through NACA is a better deal, in your opinion, than BlueHub. I'm saying BlueHub, if it keeps you there, rather than throwing you out on the street, isn't even under these circumstances better?
So let me not respond to that. Let the judge do. Say
Let's hear it.
This is, and the judge says on page 46. He says, the fact that the plaintiffs did not suffer a greater loss, the loss of their home, does not preclude them from showing that the loans entered with the defendants caused other forms of loss. So, it's just like if you have to go to a loan shark to save whatever it is, that doesn't mean that what the loan shark is doing is a good thing and is legal. And they engage in loan sharking practices. But let me just add one more thing. Not just against the 1,000 homeowners, but against the homeowners as well who who couldn't get a mortgage reduction, and also the lenders who are funding BlueHub, and also the Bar Foundation and Amos and Barbara Hostetter, who's been funding them. So the fact of the matter is, why would any entity want to work with BlueHub when in fact they are convicted of being a predatory lender?
Okay, I have one last question, and then we got to go here. I don't know if I asked this before. I was just talking to Margery, so if I asked you, feel free to embarrass me and say you've asked me this twice in the same interview. If this exemption from consumer protection law, which I still cannot believe, and by the way, the demonstration to me the legislature was trying to pull a fast one, is they didn't even name BlueHub, even though BlueHub was the only one who would qualify
The whole thing
for the exemption.
is very strange.
So if the exact same behavior happened to the plaintiffs, let's say on a shared appreciation mortgage they took out from BlueHub next year, BlueHub could not be sued for the exact same behavior because they're exempt from consumer protection laws.
Right, and that's unprecedented. And it's because she is close to the governor, to Maura Healey. She did that. Can I add one more thing?
Well, by the way, the legislature passed this thing, too. It didn't get to Healey's desk without the legislature doing it.
Yeah.
One last quick thing.
A lot of realtors in the legislature.
So I want to respond to one thing I hear on your show, Margery talking about. She's always talking about the government, Margery. That the government takes too long to get things done.
Yes, it does.
And, the bureaucracy and all that. So what I would say to you, Margery, is ask these politicians, why don't they put a clock on any decision? That any decision that the government, any entity in the government makes, has to be made within 30 days.
Oh, I like it.
And if they can't make a decision within 30 days, they have to justify why and when they're going to make a decision. Because we got to make government work. And you talk about it all the time.
Yeah, it takes forever.
Ask these politicians, put a clock on it.
Well, we have to, even if we like the idea.
5 months vacation. Isn't that part of the problem?
They have to make an exemption for the 5 months. Hey, Larry and Malika, congratulations on your stick-to-itiveness on this thing. Congratulations to all three of you. And again, Elise Cherry will get to respond to this next week. She'll be with us on Monday.
And I'm so glad you're in your homes, even though it's been a tough road.
Bruce, good to see you too. Thanks so much for all three of you.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking with Bruce Marks, CEO of the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, and homeowners Malika Cricklow of Hyde Park and Larry Mayer of Munson. We should note Elise Cherry, CEO of BlueHub, the company Blue nonprofit we've just been talking about. She's going to join us on Monday's show. Coming up after this quick break, a mother and son duo behind a new book of Indian home recipes are going to join us in Studio 3. Jim actually made one of those recipes last night. You're listening to BPR and 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
The weekend is coming with stories,
On my first gig, they came up and said, "Good job," and passed me a bucket. That's your tip, John. You want to get paid, right?
Gardening.
What you can do to encourage your plant is to give it a good deep soaking once a week if we don't have rain.
And DIY delights.
If it's not properly designed right, it's going to make this dunk sound. This really happens on really wide ductwork. That's where you get that buckling.
That's how we do weekends on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Showcase Cinemas. Downton Abbey, the grand finale, opens Friday, September 12th at Showcase Cinemas. Ticket information at showcasecinemas.com or on the Showcase Cinemas app. And MIT Sloan Executive Education. You can equip yourself with the skills to lead in a rapidly changing world. Courses cover AI, leadership, and data-driven strategy. More at executive.mit.edu.
Welcome back to BPR. Jim Browdy, Margery Egan. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. As you know, Keith Lockhart, the conductor of the brilliant Boston Pops, is going to be our co-host tomorrow. We have fabulous guests with him as well. And then we journey out to Springfield to NEPM Studios on September 15th and 16th. Governor Deval Patrick will be with us in the studio. The Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, will be with us in the studio for an hour of Ask the AG. Jim McGovern, the congressman, will call. It's going to be a great couple of days. Really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to the next discussion, too, because not only do I love food, I love Indian food. Here in Studio 3, perhaps one of the most successful mothers in America, we'll find out in a minute, Jyoti Mukharji is an accomplished chef, author, cooking class instructor. Her cookbook out Tuesday is Heartland Masala, an Indian cookbook from an American kitchen. The co-author, none other than her kid, her son, sitting right here, Auyon Mukharji. It's great to see you both. Thanks so much for being here. We're catching the duo in the middle of their national tour. They have a bunch of stops in New England, including a book talk today at DeVoley's General Store in South Dartmouth. DeVol's, I'm sorry. Who owns that, of course? Ben Shattuck, who was with us the other day at DeVol's. My apologies. The oldest, by the way, general store in America. Then Friday at Brookline Booksmith, Symposium Books this weekend, a whole bunch of other things. Heartlandmasala.com for more. Cookbook's fabulous. Great to meet you both. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, thank you, and congratulations on a beautiful cookbook and a great job. So most successful mom in America. How did this happen? We don't often see this mom, son, that kind of deal.
Well, I have been teaching Indian cooking in my kitchen at home.
You mean your own kitchen, not like some...
No.
Your own kitchen.
My own kitchen since 2010. It happened by fluke. I've never been to culinary school. And 3-4 years down the road, when my students were requesting that I put out a cookbook, and I had a vision too that I wanted to do a cookbook, so I was planning to put all my recipes together, maybe spiral bound, and give it in my classes. That was when I told Auyon that I was planning to do that, and he said he'd like to help. And
that was a big mistake, wasn't it?
I thought he criticized your recipes and said, you told him you didn't know how to cook potatoes. Wouldn't I read that?
That is all absolutely true. Yeah. My retelling of it is similar but slightly different, which is that my mom asked me if I would help, and I bluffed and said yes, assuming she would never send me any recipes. But then she called my bluff, and then we're here.
People are watching on YouTube, but unless you're in the room, it's hard to imagine how much tension there is between these two. You can feel it. It's like cuttable with a knife. Now, in one of you write. What was this thing you write that's great? Not just in the cookbook. What's that thing you write?
Substack. Yeah,
it's great on Substack.
Thanks for reading. Appreciate it.
I had nothing else to do, so I figured why do it.
You seem like a very bored man.
I read that there is a. This is the quote you, by the way, so don't try to weasel out of this. A rich history of conflict.
Yes.
Between mother and son. So you've been writing this for what, 8 years together?
Yeah.
How was those 8 years? How were those 8 years?
The way that I like to respond. Thank you, by the way, for reading. I'm honored that
it's great. It's great.
Made the time to do so.
Okay, so how was it?
Yeah, I typically respond with a question of my own when folks ask what it was like to work with my mom for 8 years, and I say, "Do you have a mother, or did you have a mother?" Can you imagine what it would be like to work for 8 years on a project that both of you care deeply about, and that response is enough to shut people up at that point, which is just like, what is that like? And we're still, my mom and I have done pretty well. There was certainly, I think, the most violent portion of our work together was recipe testing, wherein a lot of insults were flung, a lot of very, very...
You have 38 more appearances to
very
make,
things.
though, don't
yeah,
you?
but we're on tour now. And Jim,
So you have to act right?
Well, it's more that... So what I found is that when we were... when the hierarchy is clear, we're in a good place. So with the writing, I got to do a lot of the writing. My mom relinquished a lot of the writing to me, so I had sort of latitude to do what I wanted, and that was pretty tame. Our photo shoot where my mom ran the kitchen was pretty tame. It was when I mistook myself for an equal of my mom's in recipe testing that I really caught. I was flamed hard. So then, but for on tour. My main goal is making sure my day job is as a musician. I have some touring experience, or that's what I spent most of my nominal adulthood doing. So to get to take care of my mom on tour, I'm tour managing my mother. That's my main goal. So she sort of tells me what she needs, and I take care of it.
Okay, let's get this singing thing out of the way.
Did you see the
Here's
headline?
Auyon.
You see the headline first of one
What
of the
is it?
Substacks. At noon, we fight.
Exactly.
We built in time.
Hear Auyon and some of his bandmates. He was on NPR's Music Tiny Desk. This is 2018, singing in his bed, Darling Side. Here it is.
I swore that I'd stay humble like my father was before.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
Okay, so he can't cook, but he can sing. Would you agree? The kid can sing. It's I wasn't. First of all, I made a recipe last night. I made the vindaloo, and I've never had vindaloo with pork. So I like really spicy things. And you know what was stunning to me? I love Indian food, and even though it tastes often like Tex-Mex to me, do you agree with that? As a joke, it's an inside joke. You have to read all this stuff to get it. It doesn't, because I love it. The only problem for me, because I'm always dealing with a weight thing, is it's so heavily laden with cream that as delicious as the taste is, it's a problem. This is like a low-fat cookbook kind of thing. What's the deal? What happened to the cream?
Jim, I am so delighted that you agree with me because me and Auyon are constantly having...
He doesn't know what he's talking about. Let's you and I focus on this. Go ahead, come on.
Yes. So cream is not really an integral part of Indian cooking. In the olden times, first of all, India is a tropical country and it's so hot there. Carrying cream from the store to the home would totally be out of the question because it would be disintegrate. So the way they used to make gravies creamier was either using nuts or yogurt. And that is what the actual authentic in the sense what has been passed down generations has been nut paste or yogurt to make it creamy. The restaurants have taken it to another level and they put cream in all their curries, which is not the traditional way to cook.
Because it's like an American thing. I mean, it's sort of like appealing to what they think is the American taste, which is not authentic Indian food. So you're the holdout on this thing, or what?
Well, yeah. So I think I have issues with the term authenticity in general. I think
Why?
So Indian food is hugely broad. At some point, also, I want to circle back and hear how our vindaloo went for you, because I think that's an important part of this.
I will tell you in a minute. I will.
So to describe Indian food is to talk about something as broad as European food. So if you think about how different Scandinavian food is from Italian food, it's a huge country. Every state has its own way of doing things. Every village has its own way of cooking, like regional specialties. So to sum anything up, I think I've read too much history now to be comfortable making any broad stereotypes without many disclaimers. So my apologies in advance for all the disclaimers I'm going to put out. But with something like your identification of cream being based on Western taste is absolutely accurate. But it goes further back than America. It goes back to Anglo-Indian. So the British in India, and that being like a lot of the curry houses, you now can find more Indian restaurants that do regional Indian cuisine in a beautiful way. But the sort of standard curry house of like the late 90s, early aughts, traces its lineage back to like Anglo-Indian curry houses in Britain.
Yeah.
And that like pretty similar menus from like a few parts of India, mostly Punjab and a lot of Anglo-Indian stuff. And that, to me, to call that inauthentic, I hear you, and that is its own version of Indian cuisine that I think is authentic in its own right, in the same way that I respect Tex-Mex, I guess.
Let me just explain one thing to you, if I may.
Please.
When you contradict the host, you never get invited back. I just want to be as honest.
Yeah.
So be careful, my
I'm
friend.
not going to,
okay?
I promise not to contradict Margery once.
Okay.
That's right.
We're talking to mother
Darling side.
and
We're big
son.
fans. Big
Mother
fans.
and son, Heartland Masala, an Indian cookbook from an American kitchen.
Okay.
You asked me about the recipe. You know, how would you rate my cooking? I could cook a lot and bring
Jim's
it in.
pretty good.
B plus.
Yeah,
I'm not a.
Listen, I think you're an A.
Well,
I
I'm
think
not
your
an
food
A.
is very good.
But you know, this is.
I mean, I'm not much of a
Well, you're a horrible
cooker
cook, let's
or an
face it.
eater either.
I'm
for that
raising
matter.
my right hand when I say this. The only kind of food I've failed at miserably through the years is Indian. And I've tried a lot because I love Indian food. I succeeded. I made the pork shoulder vindaloo last night, and I succeeded brilliantly. In part, I have to say, because, spices obviously key to all this stuff. When you look at this, it's a beautiful cookbook. Great illustrations,
beautiful
great
pictures.
photographs, great stories that I assume most primarily written by you, Auyon. But they're just great. And the
I love the
recipes,
chapter.
obviously.
This is how we party.
That's great. I live near an Indian grocery store, and so every one of the spices that you generally can't find, I found, and it was pretty straightforward and a success. And the interesting thing that you cite in one of your writings, Chris Kimball, who's with us all the time. Obviously, he's part of this. I mean, he was part. Well, he's connected to all us. And one day I made a recipe from Chris's cookbook, and I didn't think he had enough spice in it, and I changed it, and it was a disaster. Total disaster. His attitude is, you got to stick to the thing, sort of like when you're baking. That's not your philosophy.
No.
You don't even, I heard you say with Jared, yes, you don't even measure stuff. So I really tried to be sort of casual, which I'm usually not, and it worked out brilliantly, by the way. It really
Wonderful.
did.
I am so delighted.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what are the for someone who's nervous? Marjorie's a perfect example. You're not a great cook.
No, I'm not. I
Okay,
kind of
fine.
eat a lot
So-
of peanut butter sandwiches. That's sort of the extent of my cuisine.
So if you were to say, what are one or two recipes that would cause somebody who's not a great cook but would like to be
But I
able to
love
do
Indian
this?
food as well.
I know you do.
Although
I
I
know
always
you do.
go to the same place, the Indian Pavilion, all the time. I know I should broaden my horizons.
What would you recommend out of the cookbook for a beginner, essentially, who needs a little confidence building?
You know, we do have some easy recipes too. I wouldn't say that this is, Indian cuisine is not easy because of the number of ingredients it has and the number of steps that every recipe has. But there are things like, just this morning we were talking, and lemon rice is one where you have leftover rice and you can convert it into a beautiful dish that you can eat as is. We have another one that is made with fresh corn. So when corn is in season, it's called bhutta chaat. Bhutta in our language is corn. And it's just literally sauteing the corn in a little bit of butter or olive oil, whatever you prefer, and then adding some fresh ginger, some lemon juice, and some salt and cilantro, some green chilies. The recipe's done. And then there are a couple of recipes that I have created during my cooking, during my time teaching. One of them is curried watermelon. It's very easy. Fresh watermelon, and all you do is pour a garnish on top. And that's it. And it makes it curried watermelon, and it's so delightfully delicious.
Yeah, one thing I would add, that a lot of those dishes, or like the curry watermelon is a good example of, there's an Indian cooking technique that has been written about plenty all over, but we're going to talk about it right now also, called tadka, chonk. There are as many different terms for it.
Say it again?
Tadka or chonk.
Okay.
But there's many different terms for it as there are Indian languages, so there are many. But it's basically this technique of heating up some oil or fat and adding some spices in. It's sort of blooming those spices in oil briefly, and whole seeds usually. You can also do powders, but that's much more quick. And then using that becomes either a base for the dish, or it becomes a garnish. And that garnish is what we like for the watermelon. You are cutting up some watermelon, heating up some nigella seeds in oil briefly, and then pouring it over, and that's it. And then salting it, and it's such a fun technique. Question: anytime you want a flavored fat, popcorn is a good example, using that same technique. And so the idea that you need to, like, we of course charted out and tried to make this as friendly as possible to folks who aren't the most comfortable with Indian cooking. But our hope is that, like, by renewing the efforts on all of these techniques, you'll be able to apply them to plenty of things outside of Indian cooking, which is, I think, where the most fun is.
Again, Mother and Son, the name of the book is Heartland Masala, an Indian Cookbook from an American Kitchen. One of the things that I enjoyed about the recipe I made was sort of middle difficulty. And as you say, a number of spices. You know what's fun, especially when everything is laid out so clearly and it's not intimidating. I had never even heard of Kashmiri chilies until I went to buy them. I've never used fresh curry leaves till I went to buy them. And it's huge fun unless you're intimidated, which I only was sort of a little intimidated.
And this is at the Indian grocery store.
At the Indian grocery store, right by Market Basket, I should say, in Somerville. So it's convenient. And when you try new spices that you haven't used before and it works, it's really great. You know, speaking of, you didn't learn how to cook as a kid in India.
Yeah, I wondered about that. How did this happen?
Out of sheer necessity, when I joined my husband here in the States.
How old were you again?
23.
23, okay.
And I had to learn how to cook because I had to feed my husband, and then the kids came, and so
he's a doctor, right?
He is a physician.
Are you a doctor?
I'm a physician too.
Yeah.
And you get homesick for the foods you grew up with.
Very true.
Yeah.
And you know, at that time, it was difficult to buy all the ingredients here. Now, it's amazing what we can get here. Even some exotic vegetables, which I guess you all would consider exotic, but which were routine in India, we are getting them now over here. And it's amazing how
Like
much
what?
time.
What are some vegetables that are from India that we can get here now that we may not have heard of?
Drumsticks.
Oh, drumsticks.
These are not vegetarian drumsticks.
Yeah.
Are they green?
They're green. They're long and green, and they have some flesh, they have some seeds, and the outer core is a little fibrous. And they're very, very good for your health. And everything that we use in our Indian cuisine is loaded with health benefits. Then there's another vegetable here called that we grew up eating, which is called parmal, and it's oval in shape. It's about 3 inches long, and it's got some soft seeds when it's young, and then as it gets a little older, the seeds do harden up, and it is full of flesh, and it's a delightfully wonderful vegetable.
Bitter gourd.
Different kinds of bitter gourd.
Yeah, bitter gourd's a cousin of cucumber in that same sort of the squash family, and it is extremely bitter. Looks like a cucumber from hell, and it's great. Very, very bitter, but when it's treated right, it is delicious.
We should also, beyond the fact you both did brilliant work here, the recipes are great, the writing is great. We should credit the photography is wonderful, the illustrations are.
Yes.
Who's responsible for this?
Yeah, we worked.
She's pointing at her kid, by the way. I want you to know.
She allowed me a lot of latitude again in getting to do this. We got to work with some excellent collaborators. So our photographer is a Midwestern gentleman of Japanese ancestry named Kevin J. Miyazaki, who flew into Kansas City. And as I mentioned, my mom...
That's where you guys are.
She is. I'm a bit of a vagrant. I'm actually, I often shop at that same Indian store that you mentioned.
Is that true? That's great.
I float around Somerville with some frequency.
That. It's got cheap Prosecco, too.
They do a great job. The booze plus Indian food is a wonderful thing. So Kevin jetted in, and we hired a few folks from Kansas City to do prop styling and food styling, and it was the 5 of us in my mom's kitchen for 10 days, just banging out 100 dishes together.
Wow.
And then our illustrator is, I love our illustrations. I think that was a vision that I had from the top, was to counterbalance, because there's a lot of discussion, some historical, sometimes maybe a little could have erred on the side of too heavy. I wanted to make sure, the idea of having something to lighten it up, to make sure people who were reading understood that we took ourselves a little seriously, but not that seriously, not so seriously that we weren't going to include a unicorn floating on a fruit rainbow somewhere in the book, which we do have. And that's an illustrator based in London named Olivier Kugler, who was just a dream to work with.
She's great.
I had
the family illustrations too are really neat.
He's so good. He was.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, he those French names sometimes a little tricky.
Oh, that's right.
But he's a German man with a French name living in London. And his work was awesome. He typically works off of from life, and does beautiful photojournalist work, or not illustration journalist work, where he followed a trucker around Iran for a few days and did a piece on that. What he was most uncomfortable with our book was when I told him to make stuff up, like when I asked for the unicorn on the fruit rainbow. I couldn't send a picture of that, so I had to I did a poor drawing myself, send that over to him, and he made it real,
great.
which was such.
By the way, we're getting a ton of communications like Lori Jean's on YouTube. YouTube. Now I'm interested in making some Indian food.
And we have a beautiful
we'll be
picture
buying the
of the
cookbook.
drumstick.
They are great.
Where's Darlingside? I mean, did you get together? I mean, how does that work with Darlingside?
Yeah, so we, one of my bandmates is based in Waltham, another one in Northampton,
Okay.
and then I'm floating around sort of between the Midwest and New England, and we work sort of in season, so we are just wrapping up recording season right now.
Great.
And then we're taking some time off while I gallivant around the country tour managing my mother. And then we're sort of getting when we get back together in 2026, it'll be with a new release, which is
Well,
exciting.
it's beautiful stuff. Beautiful
Thank you
stuff
so
from
much.
Darlingside too. Well, congratulations. I hope the tour is much fun. 40 stops. I mean, that's a lot of stops.
It's a lot of stops.
Yeah, but that means you're getting a lot.
I'm getting
he is
to
your
experience.
son. Remember
yes.
that. You are my son.
Yeah, but you're getting a huge amount of interest. I mean, 40 stops. That's good. That's great.
Well, that
you
is
get-
wonderful.
It is wonderful.
And it's fun to be with him.
It is?
It is. It really
Why
is.
is it fun? What's fun about him?
I have to tell you, I had a little taste of us doing the first city ever regarding with this cookbook,
Yeah.
and that was in Philadelphia. We were invited to the American Libraries Association
Oh,
World
that's great.
Conference to do a cooking demo.
Nice.
And we were together for 3 days,
Oh, my
and I came home and I shed some tears, and I told my husband, I said, I hope every mother is blessed with a son like him.
Oh my God!
That's very kind. The primary role I was playing on this tour, by the way, was attack dog in service of my mother. So this was this. I think the reason it hit such an emotional tone from my mom is because we used to go to restaurants as a family when I was young, and when there was something wrong, my mother would let the staff know, and we were very embarrassed. And we said, "Ma, please stop doing this immediately." And then here we are on tour, and we were staying at a hotel, and they forgot to include a shower curtain in the shower, which made it difficult to shower without getting the whole bathroom wet.
Yeah.
And my mom watched me let them have it as a result, and I think
Role
that
reversals.
really made
Beautiful
her. Yeah,
thing.
it was touching to see me get upset for not having a shower curtain.
It's great to meet you too.
Well,
I'm excited about the
congratulations.
cookbook.
It's
I'm
a
going to make a
beautiful
lot more.
cookbook and great fun to talk to you both.
care of you guys.
so
Really
much.
great.
Really appreciate it.
I'll
Thank
see
you for
at,
having us.
the grocery store. Little India, right? Is that what it's called? Little India, right? Yeah.
We've been speaking with Jyoti and Auyon Mukharji, thank you. Mother and son duo behind this new cookbook, Heartland Masala, an Indian cookbook from an American kitchen. It's a beautiful book. It's a fun book, and it's got great recipes. So thank you very, very much for coming
Great
in.
to meet you
It's
both.
going to be out on Tuesday. You can catch them at a book talk tonight at Duval's General Store in South Dartmouth, the oldest general store in America. And Friday, they're going to be at the Brookline Booksmith right down on Harvard Street in Brookline. For info on the rest of their events and to pre-order a copy of the book, you can visit heartlandmasala.com. That's heartlandmasala.com. Okay, coming up after this quick break, our beloved Two More Things segment. I'm Margery Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listening to 89.7 GBH and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Should ancient vehicles be sold, donated, recycled? Would you like to buy my minivan?
I would not like to buy your minivan.
And what happens to all the metal and hazardous fluids? Our reporter parts with the family Vanny, who's 20 years old with 183,000 miles, and it has wasps. The fate of Vanny on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And The Wilbur. Phil Rosenthal returns to Boston for 2 nights on his Somebody Feed Phil tour, Wednesday, September 10th and Thursday, September 11th. Tickets and information are available at thewilbur.com. And Buzzards Bay Coalition. You can choose your own coastal biking adventure on October 5th with 41, 77, and 100-mile options. SaveBuzzardsBay.org/ride. This message funded by the Southeastern Mass Visitors Bureau.
Welcome back to BPR, Margery Egan and Jim Browdy. Streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow, Keith Lockhart joins us as a co-host. And we will have CNN's media guy, Brian Stelter, who's great. Live Music Friday with Jacyn Tremblay, Broadway star Mandy Gonzalez, author, actor Marianne Leone, one of our favorite people. He's got a new book, a lot to talk about. It's time for 2 more things, but since we ran over a little bit with a great cookbook and its great authors, Margery, it's one more thing, and it's yours. I was going to talk about, I don't think I won the Powerball last night. I did have 5 tickets, one of which I bought for you, by the way.
Thank you.
No, but if we had won, I wouldn't have told you I did. But I didn't win. So what's your one more thing today, Margery?
Okay, my one more thing. Well, people are talking about whether the president might be concerned about his health. And I'm beginning to wonder if he's getting really concerned about his health and death and the great beyond. Because for the second time in recent days, he's talked about his concerns about whether or not he's going to get to heaven.
Oh, I've heard this.
And a few days back when he talked about this before, he was self-aware enough to say he thinks at this particular juncture he might be low on the totem pole for heaven. So now what he's doing, I'm not sure how sending someone money helps them get into heaven. I don't think he's got the whole situation quite right. But what he's done now is he sent out this email just a few days ago, August 2025, from one of his PACs asking for $15 donations, and the request for the money began, "I want to try to get to heaven." So
is this true or is this made up?
Yes. Online users claim an official fundraising email from the U.S. president asked for $15 donations. And the Snopes, whatever you call it, Snopes, checked it out. And so we don't know. Maybe he is concerned about his own health if he's sending out these emails. But again, I'm not sure if you can bribe a lot of people, you can pay a lot of people to do different things. I'm not sure if you can buy your way into heaven, Jim.
I don't think the $15 contributions are going to offset the $5 billion the Trump family made in one day on crypto last week. Do you?
No.
I don't think so.
Oh, my God. They are making a ton of money on crypto.
$5 billion.
Yeah,
more than they made in their whole real estate industry over decades.
Well, I think it's fair to say that the Trump family is making a lot of money.
They're doing pretty well
during the Trump presidency in a way that has never been seen before in the United States of America. But a lot of things have never seen before in the United States of America. Okay, coming up after the 1 o'clock news, we're going to talk with Massport CEO Richard Davey. This is this really great thing where you're going to be able to sign in at the airport, like go through TSA and all that, but not at the airport.
Maybe.
Well, we're hoping.
We'll find out.
We're going to find all about that. I guess you can. We do it from the studio here, Jim, do you think? Sign in right here.
They're
in
not
the
coming
studio?
in our studio, believe me.
Okay. Anyway, Rich Davey, head of Massport, is the next guest. I'm Margery Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
GBH Radio is where you come to find serious news and analysis of local, national, and international stories. It's not just nice to have, it's a have to have. Support this trusted home for fact-based journalism at gbhnews.org.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Gloucester Stage, presenting Ms. Holmes and Ms. Watson, Apartment 2B, a suspenseful and witty spin on a classic tale by Kate Hamill, now through September 27th. Tickets available at gloucesterstage.com. And Newbury Court, serving Concord, Massachusetts for 30 years as a not-for-profit continuing care retirement community dedicated to older adults. More at newburycourt.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browder, head on Hour 3 of BPR. Private jets and autonomous aviation research at Hanscom Field, remote terminals for Logan Airport, Trump's impact, and climate concerns. Massport CEO Rich Davey seems to have big ideas and big issues. He joins us to talk.
I'm Margery Egan. Then it's Am I the A-Hole Day? One woman says her friend's revenge obsession is driving a wedge between them. The revenge-obsessed friend says actions like hacking into an ex's messaging app and leaving a pint of stale blueberries in somebody else's behavior as a response, a sort of karmic rebalancing. Weigh in next, BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is encountering bipartisan pushback from the Senate Finance Committee this afternoon over his vaccine skepticism and availability of COVID vaccines. One of the most combative exchanges was between him and Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren.
You just changed the classification of the COVID vaccine.
I'm not taking them away from people, Senator.
It takes it away if you can't get it from your pharmacist.
Well, most Americans are going to be able to get it from their pharmacy for free. Most Americans will be able to get it from their pharmacy for free.
The question is, everyone who wants it, that was your promise.
No, I didn't. I never promised that I was going to recommend products with which there is no indication.
Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, who was crucial in Kennedy's confirmation, also challenged Kennedy over his decision to cancel contracts related to COVID vaccines and high-profile departures from the CDC. Two former top officials at the National Institutes of Health have filed a whistleblower complaint charging the administration retaliated against them for resisting attempts to undermine vaccines and other scientific research. Here's NPR's Rob Stein.
The former director of the NIH's National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Dr. Jean Marazzo, filed the complaint along with the former director of the NIH's Fogarty International Center, Dr. Kathleen Nuziel. In the filing with the Independent Office of Special Counsel, the pair charged the Trump administration illegally retaliated against them for pushing back against the cancellation of critical research, politicizing scientific studies, and taking hostile moves against vaccines. In a statement, HHS spokesman Andrew Nixon defended the administration's actions. Rob Stein, NPR News.
Campbell says new tariffs are accounting for a growing share of its costs, expecting to offset them in part by raising prices. NPR's Alina Selyukh reports the food giant is particularly affected by President Trump's tariffs on the steel and aluminum needed to make cans for soups.
Campbell says tariffs are expected to account for about 4% of its cost of goods sold over the next fiscal year. That's hundreds of millions of dollars in costs. The company says it faces tariffs on various products. One is Rayo's pasta sauce, which relies on imports from Italy. And the big one is steel used for soup cans. President Trump has added a new 50% tariff on steel, and Campbell's executives say there's simply not a way to source the needed amount of steel in the United States, so they have to import this key raw material. The company expects to cover these new costs in part by negotiating with suppliers, improving productivity, finding other cost savings, but also, quote, surgical and responsible price increases. Alina Selyukh, NPR News.
From Washington, this is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Boston mayoral candidate Josh Kraft is parting ways with two top campaign strategists just days before next week's preliminary election. We have more from GBH's Adam Riley.
The split between Kraft and consultants Will Kaiser and Eileen O'Connor is being described as a mutual decision by the Kraft campaign. In a statement, the campaign says the two sides had, quote, strategic differences on how to proceed after the preliminary, which will winnow the field from 4 candidates to 2. Defeating an incumbent Boston mayor is notoriously difficult, and recent polling shows Mayor Michelle Wu leading Kraft by 30 percentage points. Kaiser and O'Connor's other clients have included former Governor Charlie Baker and current Senate President Karen Spilka. Adam Riley, GBH News.
As work crews continue construction on the new Pierce School in Brookline, environmental consultants have found low levels of toxic and carcinogenic chemicals known as PCBs in soil near the school. Brookline Patch reports that the contaminated soils were found in a limited area between Town Hall and the historic Pierce building at the south end of the site. That's where a 1960s era parking garage ramp was decommissioned and filled with soil in the early 1970s. They say it's likely that filler soil contained the PCBs. Meanwhile, officials say the PCB contaminated soil will be removed in the next few weeks, and it'll be stored at a facility in New Hampshire. Thursday night football, Dallas at Philadelphia. The NFL gets underway. Kickoff is at 8:20. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher's dedicated team of specialists provide resources on investing, retirement income, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Margery Egan. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Going to pump this one more time, Jim. Tomorrow, Keith Lockhart, who, of course, is the conductor for the Boston Pops, he's going to co-host with us at the Boston Public Library.
Big mistake by him, by the way.
We're very excited. And then we're also going to be joined by CNN's Brian Stelter, who is a great media critic. Live Music Friday with Jacyn Tremblay, Broadway star Mandy Gonzalez, and author Marianne Leone, who's written this great new book. She's an author, actor. And 2 special broadcasts. That's coming up at our NEPM affiliate. We're going to be up there September 15th and 16th. Governor Deval Patrick and Congressman Jim McGovern are going to join us, as well as the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Andrea Campbell. Hello again, Jim.
Hey, we were joined by a guy who used to work for that very same Governor Patrick. He was young and irresponsible, left town, came back. He is Rich Davey. He's the CEO of Massport.
Well, all that introduction of those other guests make me feel small now.
Oh, come on. You're a big deal. You're a big deal out there at Massport.
No, or he is what he is. Let's
Exactly.
Well, he's been on the job for a year. Congratulations,
Thank
by
you.
the way. I know it is. He's here to talk about the latest on the Commonwealth sports, their planes, Logan rideshare stuff, and this fabulous program that Margie and I were just learning about these remote check-ins.
Yeah, let's start there.
Sure.
What might these be, these remote check-ins?
So no one has ever said, or getting to Logan is easy, right? And so one of the ideas we have is to create. So we have these Logan Express parking lots in Braintree and in Framingham, and the idea is if you could park there, go through TSA security there, and then get on a sterile bus and be dropped off through the security.
A sterile bus?
Yeah, basically meaning it's secure.
Oh, everyone's been, okay.
They've gone through TSA, and you'd be dropped off on the other side of the airport, so you wouldn't have to go through TSA. So not unknown. A couple of places in the world and a couple places in the U.S. have tinkered with this, but we think it's could be a game changer for folks who want to park, as I said, in Framingham, Danvers, Woburn, and Braintree.
So when you get to the airport, you just proceed right to your gate?
We would drop you off basically where the planes are parked today, and you would either walk up. So if you've been taking Cape Air, for example, usually you have to walk down a set of stairs, you walk on the ramp, and you go right to your plane. It would basically be that. You dropped off there, you walk upstairs or have an elevator, bring you up right to the other side of Terminal A, for example, or Terminal C.
Okay, let me just say one thing.
Sure.
I really hate to fly.
Oh.
And the whole...
That makes me sad.
Well, it's just the whole experience, the lines, the pushing, the cattle car kind of thing about it. That would take a lot of it away.
So the idea is to de-stress, as best we can, the travel experience. And we think this is one way to think about it. A family maybe going to JetBlue for a vacation, and February vacation.
Yeah.
If you can get on a bus and have the kids all, you'd be able to check your luggage there as well. So it would be just seamless when you got to the airport. So that's the thinking. And my hope is, and our goal is to pilot this early next year. And if it works, and I think it will, then we would implement it at a few places.
So if it's such a good idea, and it sounds like a fabulous idea, why is nobody in the United States doing it?
So a couple folks are. So there's a little nuance. So in Philadelphia, if you, for example, fly out of Atlantic City, or if you fly out of Allentown, there are some, with American Airlines, there are some instances where you actually go through those small airports there, you go down the gangway, and you actually get on a bus, and the bus drives you to Philadelphia Airport and drops you off on the other side. So this would be an...
Allentown is like... I grew up in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Allentown is a distance.
Yeah, it's like 80 miles or 100 miles, or, you tell me.
And people are going to do that?
They're doing it now. That's the point. So I think for Braintree and and Framingham, for example, it's only 12 miles. By the way, today, if Massport was a transit system, we'd actually be the 6th or 7th largest transit system in Massachusetts. We carried 2.7 million people on our bus network last year from the 4 locations to Logan Airport. So if we offer this and if you decide you want to park at Logan or take an Uber, you'll still have all of those options. But for folks who want a cheaper parking option and a cheaper way to get to the airport, and you'll be able to skip the line.
Less stress. That's a big deal.
Go ahead, Margery.
I was just going to say, you run a lot of things at Massport. Tell people what Massport runs, and then what the impacts of Trump's policies may be.
So Massport, I think folks think Logan Airport. We also run Worcester Airport and Hanscom Field. So the 3 airports here in Massachusetts. There are others, but those 3. We run the cruise port and the Conley terminal. So if you have a bottle of Barolo at home or you bought something maybe at Bob's Furniture, likely it came through the Port of Boston. And we also own a bunch of real estate in the seaport as well. So fish processing and some hotels and all that's on ground leases with us. We have about 10 million square feet of real estate. So it's real estate, maritime, and aviation.
So
Those are our three business
units. What about
units.
the ports with the tariffs?
So interesting enough, Margie, like we thought we would see significant impacts, and we did. It's been sort of bumpy, if you will. But the last couple of months, we've actually been processing more cargo than less over the last couple of months. Now, who knows? That might change. I mean, obviously, some of the administration continues to kind of put off some tariffs, 90-day holds, for example, as they negotiate with some of the EU and some other countries. But so far, we have not seen an impact. Negative impact at Boston, at the Port of Boston.
How about workers? I mean, as we have learned, sadly, it's bad enough that you go after an undocumented people who has nothing negative in their background except they cross the border to try to take care of their family or escape violence. If your skin color isn't the right skin color, is a decent shot you're going to get grabbed. Is that an issue at your place?
So I wouldn't say that, but to your question on workers, though, Jim, I mean, there's a program called a temporary protective status, right?
Sure,
that's been around forever, a TPS. And for your listeners, it's basically if you're coming from a country that's going through difficulty, Haiti, for example, which has had massive civil unrest the last couple of years, they were granted TPS status, which allowed them to work in the United States. That's being revoked or has been revoked. And so cleaners or concessionaires, for example, folks who are making your burger at Shake Shack or Chick-fil-A soon, if they have temporary protective status and it's been revoked, then they can no longer work in the United States. And so that will, we've told our vendors they need to think through that, but it is having an impact for some of those really good workers, by the way. They're very good workers at Logan Airport.
Speaking of Shake Shack and food at the airport, you probably, because you left town for a few years, you never heard Roger Berkowitz. Have you heard of him?
Of course I know Roger Berkowitz.
That was a joke, by the way. So Roger is about to open something.
They didn't do a brain. I was in New York for 2 years. I didn't get a brain transplant. Well, sometimes I have a brain, but I didn't get a transplant when I was down there.
Roger's Fish and Chips is about to open, maybe at the end of next month, in Terminal A, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't asked Roger this question. We'll have him in, so I can ask you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good food at Logan, and food matters to me almost as much as anything. Does anybody go to the airport to eat who isn't going somewhere?
Oh, so, you can't, right? So there are actually some airports where you can get permission to go through TSA security if you don't have a ticket to shop or to dine.
How do you do that?
You can't do that at Boston Logan. We don't have that program. No, we don't have that program right now. You need to be a ticketed passenger in order to get through security. But to your point, we've got Davio's, we've got Legal Seafood, Chick-fil-A's coming online next month, Shake Shack. We've got some really good, Michael Schlau has a place. So we've got some really good local and national brands at
So to some people who ordinarily would go, let's say 90 minutes before their flight to go to wherever they're going, did some people say I'm going to come 3.5 hours early because I want to eat at Davio's or Rogers? Or
it's probably more like, I don't know about you guys, but for my wife, Jane, she loves to get to the airport 18 seconds before the door closes, right? And I am a bit obsessive and need to get there hours in advance, right? Because that's just, I guess, our personality. So do we get there in time to eat? No, but I'm a little obsessive of not missing a flight. So I think I've never missed a flight in my life. So I've got that record, I guess, standing with me. But getting there a little earlier, but we've also got how many Dunkin' Donuts do you think are at Logan Airport?
Well, that's a great question.
I don't know, 12?
12, that's your guess?
I'd say there are 5 terminals, right?
4 terminals.
4 terminals, right? Sorry. By the way, the state cops, I want to say this before I answer your question.
Yeah.
I've been treated
time.
like crap for a decade at Terminal C. After that little kerfuffle.
They know who you are?
No, well,
okay.
I cannot tell you how respectful and decent the state cops have been at Terminal C the last couple of times.
Yeah.
Helpful in a wonderful way.
Good.
I would say in 4 terminals, I'd say 24.
14.
14?
So you are the winner,
I'm
Margery.
close.
You were closer.
There we go.
Nothing,
There we
by
go.
the way.
I
Can we
know.
talk? One of the places you're in charge of, which
Yes.
Margery and I are embarrassed to say we didn't know. I don't think we talked to you about this when we welcomed you home a month or 2 ago. Hanscom.
Yes.
We had the Extinction Rebellion people in, and it's not just them. I mean, obviously, they're on trial now. Some of them are for protesting. The facts, at least some of the facts, are incontrovertible.
Yeah.
That private jets, and the notion is expanding opportunities for private jets there, the pollution that they emit is exponentially more than is emitted by an individual passenger on an individual passenger plane. We've asked the governor about this a lot. She said it's out of her hands, that sort of thing. And I know that because now there's some Merlin, this company that's looking at autonomous flight, which is so scary to me, I can't see straight. We'll talk to you about that in a second. Is there may be a revising of the plans. How do you feel as the boss? I know you don't make the decision, but as the boss, who I know cares about climate, because we just picked the climate chief, I think, for the first time.
We did.
There. How do you feel about adding more private jet opportunities at Hanscom?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're favorable to it. With that said, I mean, what I've challenged, when I got there, I challenged the team a little bit. I feel like we're fighting a little bit of the wrong issue, which is, so aviation fuel accounts for 2 to 4% of all greenhouse gas emissions on the planet, about 2 to 4%. And so even if little old Massport decided to limit, which we can't, by the way, because it's actually Federal Aviation Administration, it's a federal policy about allowing for flights or not. But if we decided ourselves to limit flights, it would have basically no impact on the global economy, on the global
It's about
GHG.
limiting flights. It's about limiting hangar space, which is not a federal issue, correct?
No, but it's tantamount to reduce. I mean, they would argue it's tantamount to reducing flights. We believed, at least the proponent believed, that it would actually reduce hangars. You reduce flights because you wouldn't have empty planes coming in and out. But that's a nuance. What I wanted to get to was, if we can find a way to actually get sustainable aviation fuel that is actually green fuel for aviation, that solves the problem, not whether or not we have an extra 3 or 4
and I know you spent a lot. You spent a lot of energy on this. And how real is sustainable fuel?
It's very real. There are 2 startup companies alone in Massachusetts that are working on this. True, SAF. SAF is being created right now in Houston and in Los Angeles. Now, I know the Extinction Revolution, some other folks who I respect and I respect their position, but respectfully disagree with them. They say, oh, SAF is just nothing. It's greenwashing. No, there is technology that exists today and being developed today that will solve this global challenge, not just a Hanscom challenge.
How soon?
I mean, SAF exists today, which is fuel that is greener. It's not green, but greener than the current fuel that's offered, that's sold today. The startups, I mean, the challenge with the startups who are developing true green fuel requires, as you would expect, lots of power to do that, right? And so they have to, I think, crack the code on that. And there's a whole energy challenge with the current administration and making sure we're having renewables to power the transition. But I would just say that's what we're focused on, and we convened a group across the administration to work on this SAF question. We also think it's an economic development play for Massachusetts. That said, Merlin, we can talk about that, but that's a different use, and I think one that isn't private aircraft, that's actually research and development. And so we've challenged the proponent out there, the developer, to look at other alternatives to just corporate aircraft.
But I got to say, that's kind of a depressing message. You just said that, well, it wouldn't really matter because we're 2 to 4%. That's kind of like saying, it doesn't really matter that you buy an electric car. It doesn't really matter that you ride a recycle. And for people that can afford private jets, it's kind of a, I don't like that answer, Rick Davey. I'm going to tell you.
No, I appreciate that.
It's not.
But what I'm saying is,
we should be sending a different kind of message, shouldn't we?
Yes, but what I'm saying is, I think the fight is not about whether we build 2 or 3 more hangars at Hanscom. I think the fight is about accelerating the creation and adoption of sustainable aviation fuel, because that solves a global problem. And Massachusetts has always been in the forefront of solving global problems, whether it's, I know it's,
but it's a ways off, as you just discussed.
SAF is here, so you're able to get to sustainable aviation fuel that reduces greenhouse gas emissions. The question on the table, I think, is, can you get a fuel that has no greenhouse gas emissions? And that's a ways off.
Yeah.
But why not? I remember when I was, around here 20 years ago, we were talking about Cape Wind. We're still talking about Cape Wind, right? And wind. And so we haven't given up, but just because it's going to take a decade or 2 decades doesn't mean we should say, we shouldn't focus on it.
Well, just one
We need to
last
focus
thing on
that.
this. Why can't you wait to expand until you have that capability instead of kind of expanding now and sort of saying
Well, I mean, that's the debate that's happening right now, right? But in the meantime, we've challenged the proponent, as we did, to look at other uses for the hangar, and they came up with this Merlin one. I know you get a little nervous about autonomous flying, but that's a research and development. That will not be for private aircraft.
You know, can I ask you one last question about? I was stunned, and this is not it's you indirectly. I was stunned when I read that that ICE was no longer shipping people out of Hanscom. That Plymouth County Sheriff, who I think is the only sheriff who's agreed to cooperate with ICE, was sending 600. They had sent hundreds of people who were flown out of, who'd been nabbed. Out of, and the leaders of Hanscom, not at your level, but at the closer level, said they knew nothing about it until they stopped doing it. How can they get away with that? Did you know anything about it?
I mean, the federal government can, let's take a step back. Like, we don't get a passenger manifest every day from commercial airliners about who's on what flights, right? So the answer is, absolutely. If there's a law enforcement action that's occurring that, they're flying a prisoner in and out, whether it's ICE or otherwise, we may not know about it.
So you knew nothing about this?
I mean, we heard suspicions, but it's not like I knew every day, there's an ICE flight today, there's 2 tomorrow. No, not at all. There's no requirement for the federal government to tell us, they've got planes coming in and out, we know that, but who's on them and for what purpose?
But even though, just to be clear, though they had no obligation to disclose to you, you had some inkling this is happening or no inkling?
We had some inkling, but not a manifest of it's happening this day with this number of
Can we
folks.
talk about sort of the sordid past you have, if just for a couple of minutes?
Sordid past.
We only have a couple minutes.
Jim Dumptious did a wonderful interview with you, I think on your year-long anniversary. Yep. And the first thing we learned is that a guy who we trash every day we have an opportunity, who said they're going to flood the zone in Boston, is the acting head of ICE, who's your high school classmate?
Todd Lyons.
What is that? What was that? What's the deal?
So
look at the look on Rich Davies' face.
Look, it
is what it is.
I mean, it is what it is. I've known Todd for 40 years, I guess, and I know him to be a good guy. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges with the current administration, immigration policy, and I have a little experience in that. I was an INS attorney back in 1999, so I know a little bit about that. But Todd will probably be embarrassed, but his nickname was Vanilla Ice in high school. He looked like the rapper Vanilla Ice. I mean, this is I think one of the things, and you guys talk about this stuff a lot around the politics, is finding a little bit of the humanity. Now, as challenging and for some people as reprehensible as some of the current policies are, I know him as a guy who was a good friend and a good person, and so I think one of the ways I try to survive the day is to find the goodness in folks and what's going on. And purposes of Todd, he was a good friend in high school.
We do almost the exact same thing. We try to find the badness in people.
Fair enough.
How big was your high school?
We had about I went to BC High, so it was about 250 boys.
He went to BC High.
Okay, another person.
No, I just, the Jesuits over there, I don't know if they're down with what he may be doing.
Well, yes.
Okay, so another person who I don't think was nicknamed Vanilla Ice, who you didn't have a close relationship with, but had a relationship with, a guy who wants to be mayor of New York City, and his name is not Mom Donnie.
Yes.
What was Cuomo like? When you were in New York City, what was dealing with Cuomo as governor like?
So he was not the governor. He had resigned.
He wasn't.
He had resigned about a few months before.
Oh, I thought there was overlap. Sorry.
No. But we did have a little sparring. He probably didn't appreciate it, but he doesn't know who I am. But he was in favor of congestion pricing before he was against it, right? And so he came out opposed to it last year. And I said something in the newspaper like, boy, I'd love to introduce the Andrew Cuomo of 2019 to the Andrew Cuomo of 2023 because I think the Andrew Cuomo of 2019 got it right.
Yeah.
His spokesperson didn't take that too happily. But, the guy deserves credit. He was the one that pushed through congestion pricing, which is working really well from congestion, from safety, from
This is in New York City. We've talked about this before.
Exactly. So, but I did not work for Governor Cuomo directly.
Is there anything else on the plate of Massport that people who care about Massport and its services should be knowing about, Rich Davey?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say a couple things. We're working on the small stuff, improving customer satisfaction. Baggage claim, for example. We're working on improving getting your bags out, but we're also trying to make it less drab. We have this new program, live music.
Chris Muther hates it. You know that.
He does.
He does.
But he never actually saw it because it's classic. With all due respect to the media, it's like, you trash something you didn't even experience.
Can't wait till we talk to him about
wait a minute. He's reporting by not being on the scene?
I mean, I would talk to Emily Rooney from time to time, and she complained about the tea. I was like, when were you on the tea the last time? She's like, I haven't been on the tea in a while. I'm like, well, exactly. Like, at least have an informed opinion, please. Sorry, Emily. But Chris, I welcome to come back. But we've gotten great feedback from customers, so we extended the program. And these are all like live musicians, local musicians, and it's not like Black Sabbath or Iron Maiden, and people are disturbed. It's like think Tracy Chapman or John Mayer strumming a
covers,
guitar,
not Tracy Chapman or John Mayer.
But they're invited. But they are invited to come.
Christopher is with us next Tuesday at 12:30, so we'll play this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before you go, speaking of Jim Dumshus's great piece, he described an interesting farewell you had in New York City, which I also hadn't heard about. Can you describe for our people who?
Sure. So when you leave as president of New York City Transit, they have a sort of a tradition that you have a walkout. So the building is all in the foyer. There's 100 employees, blah blah blah. They walk you out. They clap you. There's bags and pipes, whatever. And there was one of the top folks at MTA had a sign that said, "Boston sucks, Davey, I guess okay," or something. And it stuck in their craw because I reminded them one of the reasons why they hired me to run New York City Transit was because we had the opportunity when I ran the T and commuter rail and MassDOT, we had to organize like 1,200 championship parades here. And in 2 years, nothing in New York. And they've got 12, 15 teams, right? So they never liked that.
Am I right that when you used to appear with us, when you were either secretary, whatever the hell you were doing here, didn't you jump the turnstile once?
No, I didn't. I caught a guy trying to.
Oh, you caught a guy. Did you ever catch a guy in New York City?
Several.
No, you didn't. Did you really?
Oh, sure. No, totally. Now, it's a little more of a rough and tumble crowd there, and then I think 15 years later. But no, fare evasion was certainly an issue, which they're still grappling with on the subway side. But
they do have that gorgeous new subway there now.
It's
Second Avenue.
Yeah, the Second Avenue will be coming soon.
Oh, what's the one that's gorgeous that I went on?
I don't know which one was gorgeous.
The new one.
You might have gone to Grand Central Madison Station,
I don't know.
The big station under Grand Central.
It's good. No one that doesn't exist. So, but it will. Rich, it's wonderful to see you. I hope you come back soon.
Thank you both, as always. Appreciate your time.
Nice to see you. Take care. Say hi to everybody.
Thank you very much, Rich Davey, for being with us. We've been speaking with Massport CEO Rich Davey. We thank him very much for his time. Coming up after this quick break, a friend is worried her friend might be enjoying petty vendettas a little too much. Yes, it's another round of Am I the A-Hole? Revenge edition. Stay with us. He's Margery and I'm Jim Browdy. No, I'm Margery and he's Jim Browdy. He's Mr. Revenge himself, of course, over there. You listen to BPR on 89.7, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, we'll have reaction to the ruling that blocks the Trump administration's attempt to cut federal funding to Harvard. Local academics and activists are staging a hunger strike over the crisis in Gaza. And my conversation with a host of Particles of Thought, a new science podcast from GBH and Nova that goes beyond the headlines. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Andrew Gunn, Fashioning the World, a retrospective of the Singaporean fashion designer. You can learn more at pem.sg. rockland.org. And Rockland Trust Bank, helping foster healthy relationships with money by providing education and resources to the community, one neighborhood at a time. Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. Member FDIC.
Welcome back to BPR, Jim Browdy and Margery Egan. I forgot. I'm sorry. I know who you are. I know when I see you, I know who you are. Streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow, Keith Lockhart co-hosts the show with us. Three of us will be hosting CNN's media guy, Brian Stelter, I hiccuped. Live Music Friday with Jacyn Tremblay, who can really sing, and she's going to be performing with the Pops, I think, a week from tomorrow. Broadway star Mandy Gonzalez, author Marianne Leone, and two special broadcasts coming up, 15th, 16th September. We are broadcasting live from NEPM studios in Springfield. Former Governor Patrick, A.G. Campbell, Congressman McGovern, a whole host of others will be joining us. You have a little bit of an update from the Rich Davey discussion, correct?
Well, I thought for a minute I was hallucinating.
Yeah.
There was an actual 2nd Avenue extension of the subway.
Extension?
That's what I was talking about. It wasn't the whole line. It was extension, and it's gorgeous.
Okay, so other times you may have been hallucinating, but not now.
From time to time,
you do what you got to do.
Flights of fancy.
Exactly.
What are you going to do?
Congratulations, Margery. You've made it to Am I the A-hole?
Very good.
Okay, so this week's setup concerns someone's obsession with revenge. Here it is. It's via The Guardian, and Priya, I believe is the name, is concerned her friend Phoebe has an unhealthy relationship with vengeance. It's not necessarily that Phoebe's grudges are unjustified, by the way, as you'll hear. It's that her payback schemes are constant. She's having, for example, she left rotten blueberries in the door pocket of a cab where the cabbie was rude. She's egging houses. She's hacking into the social media accounts of people who are enemies. She's plotting to plant weeds in the gardens of people who she believes are bullies. They, by the way, I would argue that these are more appropriate responses rather than vengeance. At least that's my opinion.
Appropriate?
In some cases, not all. I'll get to it. When Priya confronts
Which one
Phoebe,
is appropriate?
I'm going to tell you in a minute. When Priya confronts Phoebe about her compulsion towards revenge, Phoebe says it makes her feel better, getting even, that is, to which Priya replies, quote, "If we all went around doing what we felt like, the world would be chaos." So it's your turn, 877-301-8970 to call or text. Can someone be so consumed with getting back at a-holes that they in turn become the a-hole? In my opinion, no in this case. But if you feel differently, if you feel there is something to be said about going high when your enemies go low, now is your chance to make that case. 877-301-8970. I'll answer your thing. If someone's got a cab and that's their living, and putting rotten blueberries in the door pocket because the cab driver was rude to you it's too much. So I would not do that kind of thing.
Jim Browdy, I believe you're the person that told me when you were a waiter up in the Catskills that you put salt in the food of people who had salt problems. Didn't you do that?
And I also said I did it because they were rude to me. That's a whole different thing.
There we go.
They had salt-free diets. They were rude to me.
I don't want to.
And they weren't salt-free anymore.
Get you in trouble. But you've had a few plots that I've known about over the years that you considered carrying out.
I can't believe you even bring this up. By the way, I'm going to get. You are unbelievable. I was. There was a leader at this place, not here, so it's not
here,
who threatened me with firing because we did what was a very funny segment about revenge years ago, and she had no sense of humor, and so she's gone, which is a great loss to the company, and I was exonerated, I should say, and it was a bit. So for anybody listening, who this is intended to be funny, at 877-301-8970. So we want to know. If you do exact revenge, I'm not talking about like physical harm, but revenge, like planting weed in someone's lawn to get back to them, weeds in their lawn, or putting rotten blueberries in the door pocket of their car. If you've been wronged, are you the a-hole for doing it, or is the person who committed the wrong to which you're responding the a-hole to begin with?
Okay, this is basically about people who hold grudges.
Yeah.
So you're like a
Jewish
Irish person, because the Irish forget everything but the grudges. That's the line. You know what I mean? And you're not really Irish, but you're Jewish. But you're kind of like a Jewish Irish person, forgetting everything but the grudges. You know what they say?
Can you read a couple of things that people did that the woman responded to with like planting weeds in the yard. So people will realize this is not just idle vengeance being exacted.
Okay. She hacked into her ex's SMN account and deleted it when she found out that he cheated on her.
Is that a problem, doing that?
It's well, I would
totally
say,
appropriate. Okay, next.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. She egged someone's house after they were racist to her.
Appropriate. Next.
Okay.
Racism.
Okay.
You're against racism?
All right, I'm against racism.
Okay,
I don't know
egg
that
the
you
house.
need to egg the house. And then she was living with some bad people for a while in this house share and had to move out after they bullied her.
Yeah.
So what she did was she would seriously consider going to in their garden in the dead of night, planting something called Japanese knotweed, a plant that can damage even the foundations of buildings. It's famously hard to get rid of.
One word. Appropriate. I mean, so revenge is in the eye of the whatever, beholder kind of thing. If you are done wrong, again, she's not shooting somebody or causing physical harm to them. If someone treats you poorly, again, I don't want to use you keep using the word vengeance. That's what they did in The Guardian.
Yeah,
if you have a response,
that's what it is.
I call it a response. If you have a response that is commensurate with the wrong that has been done to you, it is not only is it appropriate, you live longer. By the way, when you keep it inside, I believe in returning favors. Let's put it that way.
Returning favors.
More than you do.
Okay.
And do you not think I'll probably live, I hope you live a long life, by the way. I really do.
Thank you, Jim.
But when you get it out of your system,
it makes you feel better.
You feel better.
She says
exactly.
it brings her peace.
What?
Other people say that this is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Any case, and we won't talk about a former employer of ours who I will never forget what he did to us either.
The list is long.
Well, you got to do what you got to do,
Here's an
Margaret.
anonymous texter who says, living well is the best revenge.
Yeah, I think not.
And another one says, to Jim, the list of activities simply sounds like a typical Monday.
Well, again, my belief is if you treat me well, I will treat you well in return. And if you don't, I become Phoebe. What can I say?
Okay, now here's one.
Yeah. We'll get your calls in a second. 877
I'm gonna tick you off
301 8970.
We went to an event and someone asked about your interrupting me on the radio.
Yeah.
And I made a joke about how, well, you know.
You didn't make a joke. If you'd made a joke, I would have been fine. I'll tell you where it was, at Harvard Business School. We're doing a thing. Someone says, I like your show, but Jim's interrupting you all the time, and it's really aggravating and makes me want to hear the show. Now, a normal person would have said, either made a joke, which Margery did not, or would have said something like, actually, we get along great, and that's like a normal conversation. Not Margery, but Margery did. And by the way, I remember this. This is fairly obvious.
Kidding, you do.
And there will be a time that I will remember this.
Okay.
And Margery says, no, it really is a problem. And Margery's before we got our radio show, let me tell you this.
Okay.
Margery and I
What happened is you left me there. I didn't have a ride home, and then you wouldn't talk to me for
I
like
didn't
a
talk
month.
to you. I didn't talk to you for a month. And now that you reminded me, you know what I'm going to do the next month? I'm not going to talk to you this month either.
There you go. So he doesn't have a problem.
That's not vengeance. That's an appropriate response to someone who has done wrong.
Okay.
What would you have done if I had badmouthed you or agreed with the badmouthing of you in a public place? What would you have done?
Jim, I made a joke.
You didn't make a joke. You didn't make a joke. Can we end the show here so you and I can settle? 877.
Let's go to the parking lot.
301.
Duke it out.
301 8970.
Okay.
When is, again, in The Guardian, they call it vengeance. When is getting back at somebody? Again, we're not talking about a violent or destructive way, but when is getting back at somebody appropriate? And when do you become the a-hole when you get back at somebody?
Listen to this. I had a neighbor videotaping my son during a meltdown. I ended up signing her up for sex toy catalogs and gun catalogs. It still feels like it was the right choice.
And you think that is wrong?
I think it's a little unusual.
Videotaping your son during a meltdown, all
That's
the
bad.
woman did in return is signs her up for sex toy catalogs and gun catalogs. Some people would like getting some of those, so I don't even think it's a penalty at all.
Okay.
Okay.
But Carol and Saugus, what do you think, Carol?
Hey, Carol.
I think the person who committed the offense is a jerk.
Exactly.
But the person who wants to, but the person who lowers themselves to do these stupid things is the major a-hole.
Oh.
That's right.
When you're just being a super jerk. That's what, and it's when I get pissed at somebody, something does something, I want some revenge. I just think this is really sick. I just think of something happening to them, and it gives me so much pleasure. Like they're crossing the street, and I just nail them in the car.
This is a woman who is criticizing me for talking about agreeing that you should plant weeds and somebody has been a bully.
She's going to run
and she wants to run somebody over.
Down.
Oh my God, Carol, that was a great call. I know she said only in her dream. She just imagines it. She doesn't do it. She's not a violent person in real life. Carol, thank you for an excellent starting call.
Okay, here's a texter.
Yeah.
The revenge seeker is the a-hole. When you take revenge on an a-hole by acting like an a-hole yourself, you just spread a-hole contagion. Pay it forward is supposed to be about kindness, not a-holery.
Okay, so once again, Margery, let's bring you back into the conversation. How good does it? I know there are certain times you have gotten back at people.
I have?
And unlike you, I will not disclose some of those.
Okay.
Okay, how good does that feel when you tell the truth? How good does it feel when you get somebody, even on the margins, after they've done you wrong? It's great, right?
No, it feels like you stooped to their level.
Yeah. My attitude is, in the words of Michelle Obama, when they go low, I go lower. That's how I've lived my life, and I always intend to.
Okay. Liz in North Attleboro. What do you think, Liz?
Hi, guys. Big fan. I was moving back up to the Boston area.
Yeah.
Dead of winter, freezing cold. Mind you, no snow on the ground whatsoever. I was registering for classes at UMass Boston. I parked my car in Central Square, moved 2 garbage cans after circling for 20 minutes. Next day came out, all 4 tires were slashed.
Oh, my God.
Yep, my boyfriend, now husband, scouted the area for a few days, found the same car parking there. So one night pulled up with a friend of his. They're from Ireland, mind you. Poured a whole thing of paint thinner over the top of the car.
Not supposed to be laughing.
Wait a minute. Who's from Ireland? Your boyfriend, husband?
My husband, yeah, and his friend. Now, guys, I got tires put on my car on the way back, declined the insurance. I got a nail in my tire driving back to Connecticut. What do you think? Karma?
Oh, that's a good question, Liz. That's a good question.
Right?
Yeah, well, first of all, you said your husband was Irish, and of course the Irish forget everything with the grudges, so he's right with his peers on that one. But what do you think about the nail in the tire?
Myself?
Yeah.
I just thought I had a bunch of bad luck, but I did great in my master's program, and all that worked out, and I'm sure the guy never slashed tires again.
Liz, that's great. Thanks for the call. You remember my favorite story about the Space Savers? Bill Evans, who we both bumped into at the library a couple days ago. We were big fans of Bill.
Doing something at the marathon.
Right. He's Bill, as you know, is former police commissioner. He's now at BC, at Boston College. Remember, he told the story when he said, "Don't tell Marty Walsh this," even though he told us on the radio. He said when he would go out running at 5 o'clock, he's a big time runner in the morning. When he would see Space Savers, he'd look around to see if anybody was looking, and he'd throw them out of his face.
Yeah, he did.
Good.
Listen to this one. We are looking at this the wrong way, says a texter. We should be considering better alternatives. A shrimp stuffed into a curtain rod will stink to high heaven and is virtually impossible to find. That's a clever one, isn't it?
Can I tell you, this is so bad, the story you told totally inappropriately, that people are now comparing me to Trump. Here's an anonymous text. I thought Trump was the only one who was afraid of strong women. Not you, Jim. Go, Margery. And another anonymous texter, Jim, you're a petty, petty man. Life's too short to carry all this stuff around with you. That's the only argument that, right, you got to forgive, and I don't do that. Now, here is one of the funniest movies in the history of the world.
Oh, yes.
Princess Bride. Mandy Patinkin is, how do you pronounce, Aiden told me, I forgot. Indigo Montoya, is that how you say?
I think it was Indigo
Montoya. Thank you, Aiden. Here he is, this line no one can forget from the brilliant Princess Bride.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
That is one of the greatest moments.
Okay. Well, you might say if someone killed your father in cold blood, you might be a little upset about that, seeking revenge on that front.
Okay, can we stay with Princess Bride for a moment?
Yes.
This is our other, Margery and I both. Marriage
is what brings us together.
Marriage is what brings us together.
Have fun storming the castle. It's Billy Crystal. Really one of the fun. Was that Rob Reiner? Rob Reiner?
I don't know. It was a riot.
He directed it, John. Thank you.
I should watch that again.
Tamara, you are next. You're in the car. We're talking about who's the a-hole. Hi.
Okay, I'm not proud. I went low.
Oh, good.
Yes, a girlfriend of mine showed me a post on social media by some friends that I have fallen out with. And unbeknownst to her, I responded via her phone and her social media with a very snarky comment.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm 56. I should know better. She sends me the screenshot last night at midnight and says, "Did you do this?" And I had to own up, and I am embarrassed. I stand by my snarkiness, but I'm pretty embarrassed that I got caught. So I think that as we get older, we should probably know better, but sometimes we don't. And I am the a-hole.
Can I tell you something? That is, other than the end part of that, that was a perfect, that is exactly the right attitude about this. Sometimes you just can't resist, even though you know it's probably not the right thing to do. Tamara, thank you very much for your call. 877-301-897. This is in The Guardian, where a friend of a woman, Priya is the first person's name, her friend Phoebe gets revenge on people. They were upset. She was upset with a rude cab driver. She stuck rotten blueberries into the door pocket. She thought she'd been bullied by some other people. She planted, or was at least contemplating planting, some sort of weeds that can actually grow in such a way that they destroy the foundation of your house.
Yeah, a lot of people are complaining, saying that knotweed is really terrible.
Knotweed is?
Yes,
I don't know.
It's very terrible. I've never heard of it.
Except what I read, yeah.
Here's another slogan you always hear about this kind of subject. One of the texters just sent, as his father always said, "Don't get mad, get even."
Yeah.
Well, so there you go.
Yeah, it's a variation on getting it. By the way, if you knew, the woman who was on the salt-free diet, where I put salt in her chopped liver, she treated me like garbage. And what are you supposed to do? It's a little
You might have killed her, Jim.
response.
She might have had a stroke or something like that. You know what I mean?
That's
You might have done her a harm. Okay, here's one. And to an ex who wouldn't move out, I let the air out of his bike tires. First the front one for days, then the other one. Removed, switched, tested, and replaced multiple times. One tire, then the other. Again, it'd be good for days. And then the person finally moved out.
Okay, one more time. You've never, to your knowledge.
I'm sure I have. I can't think of anything offhand.
Okay, it's convenient. Bob in Londonderry. No, it is. Bob in Londonderry, you're next. Well, you did it to me, actually. Bob in Londonderry. Now that you brought it up, I didn't.
Well, I brought it up because every time we go somewhere, people ask me the same question.
Yeah. Okay. And you know what it is? Let me tell you something. Well, actually, I'm not going to tell you something. I'll tell you at 2 o'clock. My response is,
right.
You know why I'm going to tell you at 2 o'clock? Because I'm not going to talk to you for the rest of September. So I figure I'll get it out at 2 o'clock and then we can just move on.
Okay.
Bob in Londonderry, you're next on,
Hi, Bob.
what is it? Boston Public Radio. Hi there. Hello.
Hey, Margery. Hi, Jim. So I just realized listening to this that I am the a-hole.
Oh.
Because I used to know a woman named Fiona, and I don't know what I did, but I have knotweed in my garden. And I don't know how that happened or what I did wrong, but I've come to realize I'm the a-hole here.
Wait a minute.
He's making a joke about the knotweed.
Oh, the knotweed. Okay, Bob. Okay, I got it. Sorry, I was a little slow in the uptake there.
Okay, I had to explain it, Bob, but you did well. Thank you very much for the call. You know, an anonymous texter raises a very good issue that I thought about before and I wish I'd brought up. Who carries rotten blueberries with them?
That's a great question.
Well, I guess a kind of person who says, I got to be ready for every slight. I would do that if I had
and
thought
blueberries
about
don't smell. They'd just be kind of mushy.
Yeah, but that would mushy and horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, try cleaning them out of your door pocket kind of thing, you know?
Okay, here's a person that sent their MAGA neighbor a Russian flag with an anonymous note that said, "Thank you for your support."
Oh, now we have sound. This is not totally related, but it's close enough because it makes Margery and me happy. This is the rotten grape or the pressing of the grapes? Which is this thing? Do we know anybody? Somebody who wrote me that note. Can you be clear? We'll get back to that in a minute. Stephen Akar, you're next on BPR. Hi.
Hi, Jim and Margery. Great to get through and talk with you.
Thank you very much.
Many years ago, when I was young and stupid, instead of now when I'm old and stupid, my best friend Rod got married. And as a prank, getting back to him for putting rocks in a friend's hubcaps, our friend, who was ironically named Jim, put a bluefish through the springs of the back seat of our friend's car on his wedding day.
Oh, no.
In order to ruin their honeymoon. He confessed to it while we were at the reception, and we said, Jim, we can't do that. We got to go out and get the fish. we went out and we couldn't find the car. And Jim said, well, I know, I put it in Rod's Impala in the back seat. Rod didn't take his Impala. He took his father's LTD. So some poor unsuspecting person drove off with a bluefish wedged into the springs under their back seat that day.
Oh, God.
That's a pretty good story, actually, there, Steve. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, that's always the problem, Steve, right? If you get the wrong person when you're seeking revenge, that can be really terrible.
Steve, thank you much for the call.
Now, here's one that happens to people all the time. This is from Jay from Jamaica Plain. He says, years ago in Boston, I was about to go to a parking space, and some a-hole rushed in, blocked me from the space, and finally took the space. I got another space around the block, walked by the a-hole's car, and keyed it. The only time in my life that I did that, but it did really feel so good. My car's got keyed on both sides. I don't know what I did.
And if you knew, that's perfect. I'm glad you said that. If you knew,
probably you.
If you knew, exactly. Thank you. That's perfect. So if you knew who keyed your car, you would do nothing about it. Is that correct? Because when they go low, you do whatever you do because you're a good soul.
No, it's
do
not
nothing
that.
about it.
It's just I would maybe I'd say, why did you do that?
Okay, fine. Beyond that, if you had an opportunity,
I'm gonna go back and key their car.
Flatten a tire. How about flattening a tire? You wouldn't flatten a tire?
I don't think so.
Why not?
Somebody backed in like that to where I was waiting for the parking space to me just yesterday in Beacon Hill.
You know what I've done in the
Beacon
past?
Street.
I have caused myself, when someone does that to me occasionally, even though it causes me great discomfort, I will park behind that person and just sit there.
That's right.
Even if it takes me, I've done that. Even if it takes an hour.
Yeah.
And then when they come out, I'm parked there. Okay? And I know it caused me more misery than I probably created for them, but it also caused me great joy.
And what do they say, or what do you say when they come to the car?
I usually keep the windows closed and the music loud. I do. And I pretend like I can't hear them. Now, I admit, I've not done that 1,000 times. I have done it more than 3 times. Let's put it that way. Is that okay?
You have?
I have, yeah.
And when did you finally leave in these particular circumstances?
I haven't left, actually. No, let's drill down, as they say.
Yeah, let's drill down
for a second. You're in a parking lot. You're in a parking lot where it is impossible to get a space.
Right.
You're driving around endlessly. It's been 20 minutes. You're about to give up. A space finally comes. You are clearly first in line, and somebody zooms in and takes the space.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? Say, "Excuse me, it was my space." You do what you got to do. By the way, I wouldn't do violence. I wouldn't damage their car. I wouldn't hurt the person. But you just park there. They park there. You park there. And you park there for a while.
Okay, let's drill down on this one, though. Okay, so how long you eventually had to leave?
I did eventually.
And they eventually had to leave.
They did.
So how did what was the denouement?
It's the wrong question.
It's the wrong question?
The right question is, you're not worried about someone who'd get upset about that.
Yes.
You never park behind someone who took your space. You should write this down, listeners, if you don't mind. Let me say it again.
Okay.
If you're going to block someone in who took your space and spend some time doing it, the person must always be smaller and frailer than you are. I'm serious about that.
So
if a person is big and strong,
little old lady,
then I'll do it in a second. If it's like a 32-year-old buff guy, take it. It's fine. Take all my space. By the way, that part is exactly. These are perfect. Can we hear, however you pronounce his name, Indigo Montoya, because it is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And by the way, we had him on the show. Do you remember a couple of years ago?
Did.
About serious stuff when he was helping refugees off the coast of Greece. He's a wonderful guy. Here it is again from Princess Bride.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya.
So great.
You killed my father. Prepare to die.
That's right. And then the prince turns around and starts running like hell, and Mandy Gonzalez chases after him.
It's just a brilliant,
I don't think he ever killed him, though.
Eliza, you're in Boston. You're on BPR. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
So I think that they are the a-hole in this case. So I'm a local country artist. I gig all around.
Oh.
And I was playing a venue in a suburb. And I got to the venue, and I was not, I wasn't like scantily dressed. I was just wearing, kind of like a sheer dress with like a full coverage, like bodysuit under it. And they told me that if I didn't change, that I wouldn't be able to play.
What?
Oh. And so I took a band vote, and I said, well, what do we do? Like, should we just walk out? And we all decided, like, yeah, we should just, blow this place out of the water and just go. So we left. But then they tried to come after us for a dine and dash because we had had a drink. but I had paid the bartender. And so then I had to like call the police and tell them like, hey, like they might try to call and tell us like that or tell you that we dined and dashed. It was like a whole thing. So needless to say, I'm definitely not going back to that venue. And a lot of my good friends have started like boycotting the venue as well and not playing there.
Are you not okay with this?
Yeah, this is okay. This is okay.
It's totally appropriate and okay. Eliza, I'm so glad you called before we finished.
All right.
Because we finally got Margery on board. Eliza, that was a great story.
Just a couple of quick ones
you.
from the text before we get to Jared.
Yeah.
But here's my favorite saying, says the texter. If you meet more than 3 assholes in a day,
You're supposed to say a-hole, by the way.
Whoops.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hello?
If you meet more than 3 a-holes in a day, then you are probably the a-hole.
Beautifully
That's
put.
a pretty good one.
Okay, thank
and then
you.
another texter says, never knew so many criminals listened to my favorite show. And then somebody else said they put dog poop in illegally parked cars in front of their house.
Yeah, I haven't done that in ages. Let me just say this. One of my most fun things in the show is trying to guess. There is no way Jared is not exacted. I know they'd like to call it revenge. I don't exacted a response on people who have done you wrong. You're like Margery. You just take it.
Well, I can't really think of a time. I'm sure I've done things.
Yeah.
Well, I did stage one elaborate, but this was more of a prank. One elaborate thing for a long time that really upset somebody when it was finally perpetrated. But I can't really think of anything that I did like that.
Why?
Well, first of all, I don't have the time or energy to plan that much. And then secondly, they're going to come after you at some point.
That's right.
And also I have a high moral ground. I should have led with that.
That's right. The Chinese proverb, texture just said, if you seek revenge, first you must dig 2 graves. Yeah. How about that one?
Well, that's actually a pretty great line.
Texture also wants to know, Jim, if you're okay with all Trump's revenge seeking.
No. I mean, it depends who does it. If I do it, it's just. I mean, come on. What a stupid question.
I didn't get to hear all of it, but you've done these things?
Oh, yes.
Boy.
He didn't talk to me for a month.
No, because...
And he's not going to talk to me for a month after today because I reminded him of the time he went to Harvard and somebody asked about, he's interrupting me all the time.
I heard that.
And I made a joke.
Yeah, it was not a joke. It was disgusting.
Was this just your elaborate way to get me to not park next to you anymore?
Spot. I want to thank you for
How
that.
respectful was
Very
I?
respectful.
Where was I parked?
Well, I don't know where. I don't give a damn where you're parked.
Oh, you don't give a damn where I parked.
Well, after you trashed me at Harvard Business School, why should I care where you parked?
I was in the third space, Jim.
What are you doing today?
Third space.
We're talking to Sally Mann, the photographer, acclaimed photographer. She has a new book.
She's
she
great.
the one that does the kid?
Yes.
Oh,
she's great.
I am a huge fan.
And after you read the book, a bigger fan. She's so funny on top of everything else.
Great.
And then speaking of funny, Joy Behar is on the show talking about her show coming. And so I'll also ask her about being a target of President Trump.
That's a good point.
And then we continue countdown to 2026 with an exhibition coming from the Smithsonian. I guess that still happens. Voices and Votes, Democracy in America.
Great. We'll be listening. By the way, your show was great yesterday, live at the library. We loved it.
Yes, it was. Thank you, Jared. Okay, tomorrow we're going to be joined at the Boston Public Library with the conductor of the Boston Pops, Keith Lockhart, is going to be co-hosting with us all day long. We're also going to talk with CNN's Brian Stelter, Live Music Friday with Jacyn Tremblay, Broadway star Mandy Gonzalez, and author-actor Marianne Leone on her new book, Christina the Astonishing. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, Brad Lewis ran our YouTube stream today. Our engineer is John LaClaw Parker. Our executive producer is Jay Bologna. Stay tuned to the Culture Show right after us.
Can I clarify something? Because people, I think, I am going to talk to you on the air. I'm just not going to talk to you off the... No, I want to be clear. We're not going to ruin the show. I'll talk to you from 11 to 2, and that's it. Okay.
Okay, Jim. He is Jim Browdy, out for vengeance. I'm Margery
Not
Egan.
vengeance. It's not.
He's out for revenge.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Revenge.
Don't miss it. Bye.
Don't forget the Chinese proverb, Jim.
What is it?
Out for revenge, dig 2 graves.
Okay, goodbye.
See ya.
Start digging.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Buzzards Bay Coalition. You can choose your own coastal biking adventure on October 5th with 41, 77, and 100-mile options. SaveBuzzardsBay.org/ride. This message funded by the Southeastern Mass Visitors Bureau. Anytime you're looking for a snapshot of history, a window into the past, or the perfect partner in crime, GBH has you covered. Find all your favorite GBH shows streaming now on the PBS app.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org.